Suns will not win.
Yes, I'll take the field.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, March 8th. I am Josh Engleman, joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. 7-game slate here. It's kind of gross. Not a lot of fun spots to talk about. This is the kind of slate that we love to see as we get towards the end of the season. Shout out to Prize Picks for being the sponsor. We'll talk about them in a bit. But first, Adam, what's good?
Looking forward to the very different slate than yesterday. Yesterday, we just had like an abundance of really good value plays. Granted, the best ones all seem to fail, but today you really don't have a lot of it. So it's a totally different slate. It's pretty unusual for March, and I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk through it. I didn't have that kind of morning today, so I haven't really I didn't have a strategy show or anything, so I haven't really batted this slate off of anybody. So I'm anxious to have a conversation, see where I stand, make some changes, because I've got a couple of spots where I am way too heavy on some plays, and I'm going to need you to talk me off that ledge. So that should be a good time, I guess. We shall see. I'm ready to dig in if you are.
Yeah.
Well, let me grab, do we have most recent ownership? When's the last poll here?
An hour ago, I think.
Okay, let me grab this FanDuel ownership so I actually have it in front of me. But now, let's do it. Game number 1, Atlanta Hawks, 3.5-point favorites against your Washington Wizards, 236.5 total. For Atlanta, I mean, we've got their consistent starting lineup in for today. Who's playing those minutes will be an interesting discussion. We've got a lot of ownership actually coming into Atlanta. 10-15 to Murray, Hunter, Bay, Capella, and then 25 coming into Trae Young, whose price is down to 8,800. When you look at Atlanta, I assume you're starting with Trae?
Yeah, I really like the spot for Young for a couple of reasons. One, he's cheaper than usual. Normally, you have him living in that like $9,400, $9,500 range on DraftKings. Here we have him coming in at $8,800, so good price tag there. Favorable matchup against Washington. Relatively tight spread. Should be a high scoring game. Also, I typically don't spend a lot of time looking into play type data or stuff like that, but I did pull it up on the show with Lofty this morning just because I know that Trae Young's always one of the highest frequency pick and roll guys in the league. Washington's dead last in points per possession allowed in the pick and roll this year. They've really struggled to defend that. Certainly just reiterates this being a very good spot for Trae Young.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that $8,800 price tag. So clearly a very interesting spot to go. Do you read into his minutes lately?
I mean, he's still, I think, playing 34, 35 typically. Last game, you got a kind of weird rotation from him in the first half, I think in the second quarter. Or no, not last game. Yeah, he just played 34 minutes last game. There was another game recently. I think it was him that he had a kind of weird rotation. But I expect that you're getting, 33 to 35 minutes from him.
Okay. Yeah, I gave him 33. It's been so consistent over the past, basically since the break. 31.5, 32, 34, 34, 29 is the one I think you're referencing. 32, 34. He's in that range. It hasn't been that, because he was locked into that 35, 36 for a while, and you saw Murray in that like 37 range pretty consistently, but it seems like they've been dialed back a hair. How are you handling Saddiq Bey and John Collins?
Yeah, that's a tricky spot. We've seen Saddiq Bey getting a lot of run lately. I still don't trust it, especially at a $4,800 price tag. It's not like you're getting him at a really discounted price. So I'm not getting to much of him, especially because right now we do have him projected for 14% ownership. That's quite a bit. But the playing time has been there for him, and we have seen John Collins losing minutes. As long as Collins remains in the starting lineup, though, it's just tough for me to think that every game, John Collins is going to lose those minutes. It's clearly something that can happen and is going to happen relatively frequently. But in a situation like this, where you have a $4,100 John Collins at 2% and a $4,800 Saddiq Bey at 14%, I don't like getting to either one all that much, but I find it easier to get over the field on Collins at the expense of Bey, given the ownership.
Yeah, it just feels like it's a lot easier for Collins to find minutes than for Bey to definitely get the minutes.
Right. What it really comes down to is if John Collins accidentally plays well, are they really going to still take him off the floor?
Accidentally plays well.
I mean,
that stings for him right now.
Dude, sucks.
It's brutal. I'm really anxious to see where he ends up next year, because I can't imagine that it's Atlanta, and I just want to see him be somewhere else and see if like the person that used to be in there is still in there. Because we can say whatever we want about his defensive abilities and stuff. This dude was really good on offense, and now he is not.
Yeah, it just completely disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about he had this hand injury or wrist injury or whatever it was, something in that vein. I don't know how that could still be affecting his shot so much, but maybe it is. Anything else here for Atlanta? Murray, Hunter? How you feeling about that Capella-Okongwu split?
Yeah, I mean, any of Murray, Capella, Hunter, I think look fine. One thing that does stand out, just sort of looking at ownership on this slate, is that because right now we don't have a ton of good value, you're just getting ownership on these relatively cheap wings pushed up, and also in a lot of cases for me, exposure pushed up, because there are guards that I want to pay for. There are centers that I want to pay for. There's Jason Tatum, but outside of that, and I guess Brandon Ingram, there's not really forwards that I want to pay for. So that's the spot where I do find myself paying down quite a bit. If the slate started right now on DraftKings, I would have around 25% DeAndre Hunter. That's not because I like getting to DeAndre Hunter all that much, but the playing time should be there. He's cheap enough. Clint Capella certainly has upside. The issue is just that it's just like it was. What? Okay. So you're still getting similar rotations to what we were getting with McMillan, where typically you're getting like 27, 28 minutes from Capella. But, last game you got 33. There's going to be games where he plays more at modest ownership and a decent price tag. I don't hate getting there, especially because this isn't the deepest center slate. There are pay up options, like you have Jokic, obviously, but it's not quite as strong a center slate as you normally get. So I am getting a little bit more than the field on Capella right now, but that's a spot where I don't feel very strongly about it. Like if that were to go away, I wouldn't mind. One other sort of interesting spot to me, and it's very similar to the John Collins spot, is do you have any interest in Bogdan Bogdanovic? Because I'm not really getting to him right now, but we've seen his playing time since the coaching change take a haircut as well. But we know he's a good offensive player. And at 4,400, I just think you're going to have enough games mixed in where he happens to get 28, 29 minutes and, Saddiq Bey doesn't, that he's actually an interesting. He just strikes me as one of those guys where it's like sooner probably rather than later, he's going to have a big game at 4% owned. And I'm just going to be like, damn, I'm an idiot for not having him.
Anything else you want to touch on here for Atlanta?
No.
All righty. Then we will move it over to your Washington Wizards, who are going to be getting Monty Morris back today. Haven't seen him for extended amount of time here. It looks like he's missed 5, 6 straight, something along those lines, but it appears he is back for today. Do you think he goes right back to the starting lineup?
I wasn't listening. I was reading chat.
Do you think
Monty Morris?
Starts?
Yeah, I think he probably goes back to the starting lineup, but I don't know. It wouldn't be shocking if they bring him off the bench to try and limit him.
Okay. So as you look at the rest of Washington, we've got Denny projected for 27% ownership. Beal is at 19, Porzingis at 13, Kuzma at 10. Can we just start with the Denny one? Am I missing something here?
I don't get it. I'm getting to none right now at that ownership. Like if he plays well, can he find his way into the closing lineup? Sure, you could get a closing lineup of either Morris, Wright, Kuzma, Porzingis, Beal, Denny. Like that can certainly happen. And he's only 4,400, but I mean, he played 20 minutes last game. There's no reason to think he's locked into some big role here. To me, he's a very similar play to Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Yeah.
Like extremely similar play to Bogdan Bogdanovic, except he's somehow projected for 27% ownership. I don't get it. We have him. How many minutes do we have him at? Yeah, I mean, we have him at 29 minutes. I don't see that.
No, I gave him 26. I got to 6%. I was just like, yeah, that seems like the proper amount of Denny on today's slate.
Right. Yeah, I think that 24 to 26 range is where, I expect him to be as well. Can he play 29? Sure. But you're just going to get closing lineups that don't have him frequently enough where I don't think with Kuzma in, that can be the expectation. It's different when Kuzma's out because you're missing that spot in the closing lineup. But with Kuzma in, you essentially have 4 guys locked into the closing lineup.
Yeah.
One of the point guards, Beal, Kuzma, Porzingis. And then that final spot is Kispert or Avdia normally, but it could be Gafford. You could get weirder rotations where, it's Goodwin or something, but typically it's, going to be one of Gafford, Avdia, Kispert. But when he doesn't get those closing minutes, like I said, last game, you got 20.8 minutes from him. It's not even like you're guaranteed 24. So I think expecting 24 to 26 minutes makes sense. This ownership makes no sense to me. And if it stays that high, I just won't have him.
I hope it stays that high. Like it's so preposterous to me that that's what I want it to come in as, just because I think that you could just take a giant bite out of the field with that kind of ownership.
Well, I mean, I want it to be correct and be there. I don't.
Yeah, like if it's, I want it to be 27.5 for real. When
I would be very happy if the
701.
slate starts and I pull up Denny Avdia and he's 20 something percent.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Who is your favorite play here from Washington? Because I see it a little bit differently than the ownership.
So my favorite play looking at it is Beal. I'm looking now to see where I'd be if the slate, started right now. And it's not much Beal. I'm getting to a lot of Kuzma if the slate started right now, which I think does make some sense, just given that Ford's not the strongest position today. Kuzma does give you a lot of upside. I'm getting around 10% Porzingis and then like 2 or 3% Beal. But I would like to get to more Beal. I'm hoping I get to more Beal. The playing time has been ramping up for him recently. He's only 8,100. But it does, just kind of make sense to me that a $7,500 Porzingis or Kuzma, that only 9% ownership is showing up. Porzingis, a little bit more expensive, but clearly a high ceiling for him as well. We got 34.5 minutes from Kuzma yesterday, so it's not like he was limited after being questionable. So if the ownership holds how it is, I do expect Kuzma to be my highest owned guy here. If you see that ownership change a bit, then I think my Kuzma exposure probably comes down.
We're on the same boat here. When I see how the ownership, I see the price, I see the MPE. To me, Kuzma is the guy that I want to get to. Not that I don't like Beal, but to me, right, Kuzma is just the easier guy to get to.
Yeah, when I look at how Beal's ownership is projected and how often I think he's in the best possible lineup, Beal's only showing up in the best possible, in the optimal lineup for me around 9 to 10% of the time. Yeah. And that's because there are so many good guard plays always. Yeah. Kuzma showing up for me like 17% of the time because there's not that many good forwards and he's really not expensive. So he's just going pretty heavily under-owned right now, in my opinion, at 9%.
You basically read off the numbers that are on my screen. I had 11 for Beal, 17 for Kuzma. Yeah. So you spoke it into existence. I have 25% Kuzma right now. I'm a little lighter on Beal. I actually would like to get to a little bit more for right now. It is a team that I'm going to dig into a little bit when we're finished here. And then Porzingis, 8,900. I mean, just looks properly owned at 13%.
Yeah, pretty much in line with the field there. I think he's going a little bit under-owned, but not by as much as Beal's projected to. And you just don't have, you do have MPE on him, power forward center, and you just don't have that many high upside forwards today.
Can't go to the guards now, right?
I don't really think so. Monte or DeLon Wright would have been kind of interesting if Morris were out, but with them both in, I don't have much interest.
Anything else for the Wiz?
Nope.
All righty, schedule for the rest of the day. That is pretty simple. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. They'll take you from 6 until 7:30. Doesn't stop there, though. PGA Live Before Lock tonight from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. You got the Players' Championship coming up tomorrow. You playing golf?
Probably not.
Yeah, I want to, but
maybe.
I just never enjoy it. And then I'll jam at like 5:15 when I wake up for the process show. It's just like, oh, there's still... And then I get to Friday and then I lose my 2 most exposed golfers to cuts on the number. And I hate myself for entering golf. So I'm going to try to avoid it as much as I can. You guys, though, if you want to play golf, you should sign up at Stochastic using any sub you want. But if you're just interested in the NBA side of things, and I could see that since this is an NBA show after all, there's a link in the description. Jordan will probably drop it into chat as well. You can get 50% off a week of Stochastic Plus Platinum, the NBA edition, if you want it. Jordan, give them that link. I know they'll love it. They'll sign up. They'll come in. They'll get behind the paywall, and then they'll never leave. Once we have you, we have you. And I don't mean that because we're just going to continue to charge you or something. I just mean you're going to love what you're getting from us. There it is. Links in the chat. 0% chance of what happening?
Me moving to Live Before Lock.
Yeah, not a chance. Not a chance. This is the better show, by the way. Shout out to the Live Before Lock peeps, but we all know where the bread gets buttered. That's the deeper dive, baby. Portland Trailblazers.
I do have one quick thing to add from Washington. I didn't realize it, but and it's nothing too huge, but I am getting to like 10% Gafford, who's projected to be 3% owned. Okay. Just not a great center position. Good point per minute guy. If he is ever going to play more minutes, this is the type of matchup where I would expect him to. You do have 48 minutes of actual centers out there. So on average, still probably expecting 22 to 24 minutes, but at very little ownership, I think that there is some upside there.
Portland Trailblazers, 10-point dogs in Boston, 230 total. The big news that we have here think we might be getting Yusuf Nurkic back, which I don't think anybody really wants, but I guess that's happening. Still no Anthony Simons, no Justice Winslow, Archie Diacono, or Ibu Baji. So let's start just talking about the center rotation. Yusuf Nurkic is 6,500 on DraftKings today. We're just not playing any center for Portland now, right?
If Nurkic is in, I don't think so. Like, I don't expect him to play enough right out of the gate to be a particularly good option there. So I'm not getting to him. But if he's in, obviously I'm not going to Eubanks or Watford either.
Okay. And if he's out, it's sort of just the same thing we've been doing. We're projecting Eubanks and Watford and somewhere in that 24-24 split, and they're going to look like okay value plays.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can get to a little bit, but neither one's going to stand out if Nurkic is out, but they're essentially unplayable if Nurkic is back.
All right. Well, then let's start with the clear best play that you told me about before this slate started. How much Matisse Thybulle can one man have?
I really hope this changes. I'm getting a lot right now, and I hate it. Like, I don't want it. The guy sucks from a fantasy standpoint. Like, even, he's been okay with Portland because he plays so many minutes, and that's why he is showing up here. But even with Portland, he has a 9% usage rate. He's averaging 0.67 DraftKings points per minute. The matchup sucks. All of that said, he's showing up in like 65% of my lineups right now because he's 4K flat, and it just opens up stuff elsewhere.
Do you have his shooting totals?
What do you mean?
With Portland? Go look at what he's shooting from three in Portland.
Oh.
Wait, it'll be fun for me.
45%.
Oh, so it went down. It was 51 a game or two ago.
And he's still terrible.
Yeah. He was like, 16 for 31 or something through the first couple of games. Because I took his prize picks like under 1.5 threes made. And obviously, like, he went over that because he went over it like multiple times so far for Portland.
So I was wrong. So I said with Portland, he was at 0.67 DraftKings points per minute. He's at 0.75 DraftKings points per minute with Portland. It's in the games where Simons has been out and Simons has been out and Dame's been in. He's at 0.67. But either way, like, overall with Portland this year, 10% usage rate.
He's also going to not keep making those threes like that. So you can safely bring that number down.
This is the opposite of like what we were talking about with Killian Hayes the other day and Jaden Ivey yesterday, where like Jaden Ivey and Killian Hayes average a fantasy point per minute despite shooting like 40% true shooting. So it's just like, all right, that's as bad as it can get. It has to get better. Matisse Thybulle averages 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute, shooting unbelievably over his head.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I hope this goes away for me. Like, nothing would make me happier than looking at my lineups, getting closer to lock and being like, oh yeah, I'm right around the field at like 20% on Thybulle. I do not want to take a stand on this guy, but he's showing up in a lot of my lineups, which hopefully I run good on 3-pointers and steals.
What about Reddish?
He's another one. Like, he at least has some semblance of an offensive game. Not very good, but he can at least do some things on the offensive end. But I'm not getting to a lot of him. So it just seems like I am, for whatever reason, taking a stand on more Thybulle and less Reddish. I think that the ownership on both is pretty much where it should be. So it's probably just that $700 on Thybulle making a difference for me. It is a slate that, has relatively tight pricing and that we don't have a ton of good value. So I guess that $700 is mattering, but I think Reddish is a similar play to Thybulle in that he's not a very good offensive player. He is playing a ton of minutes. He does at least have like a 17% usage rate in these games without Simon and with Lillard. So not a high usage guy, but at least like a functional offensive player, unlike Thybulle.
Any chance we can get a different producer for today?
I've been advocating for that for the last week.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jordan, have you thought about not doing whatever it is that you're doing? What do you want Chris to do? That would be better for everyone involved. Just terrible at your job, Jordan. Can they hear us? Well, I mean, I'm not testing the water like that. I didn't know if I meant more talking about the Blazers.
Yeah, I meant more just like, should we keep talking or not?
Anybody else having trouble with this show? I mean, I guess
Scroll up.
if you're blind, you don't know.
Fire him and rehire him so he understands the gravity of the situation.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we're fantastic. Anyway, let's talk for the rest of Portland. I have been getting to a ton of Dame as of late. Today feels like a day where you can finally, like, I don't want to say that he's not a good play because that's not the way that I want to word it, but I don't think that he's the immediate, like, awesome option that he's been.
Yeah, so I think that's true regardless. I do think Nurkic's status matters too, because Nurkic is certainly a higher usage guy than Eubanks and Watford. You still don't have Simons. So you're going to get plenty of usage from Lillard one way or the other, and that would be the case if Simons were in too. But you're talking about somebody that in these games without Simons and without Nurkic has a 41% usage rate and a 41% assist percentage. If Nurkic comes back, you're gonna lose at least a couple of points off that usage rate, and it is a tough matchup against Boston as well. So if you want to get to Dame at 6% owned in tournaments, like, it's fine. He's still got the ability to be the highest scorer on the slate. He can easily become somebody that you have to have, but I am certainly going to have more difficulty getting to him on this particular slate than I have on a lot recently.
Delon Wright starting for the Wiz.
Yeah, so probably like 28 minutes for him, 20 for Morris, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Yeah, I'm having a harder time getting to Dame today, which is kind of a bummer. And then we only have one other guy to talk about. I don't really care too much about Jeremy Grant, but is a functionally useful person that plays basketball.
Yeah, and he's another one that he'll look slightly better if Nurkic is out. You just get a usage bump for him when you're going from Nurkic to Eubanks. So he's only projected for 3% ownership right now. He was projected a bit higher this morning. I'm not getting to him. That's with Nurkic projected in. Again, if Nurkic is out, the projection on Lillard's going to come up a bit. The projection on Grant's going to come up a bit. But it's still a pretty unappealing matchup, and they still just kind of look like contrarian tournament plays anyway.
All right. Then we go to the Boston side. There's one play that I like here quite a bit, a second that I think is slightly better. We still have no Robert Williams, but otherwise Boston is at full strength. I like Jason Tatum more than the 19% the ownership is showing, 10,300 here in a matchup against a Portland team that is not good defensively. If you want to tell me that you like Jaylen Brown a bunch at 5% ownership, I like him quite a bit in GPPs, but Tatum is my priority here.
If the slate started right now, Tatum would be my fourth highest owned guy on DraftKings. Brown would be seventh.
I have 52% Tatum, so
I'm like 36% Tatum, 30% Brown. Tatum is just a really good play. I've already mentioned it a couple of times, that there's not a lot of guys to pay up for at the forward spot. But Jason Tatum is just underpriced here. His salary's come down for I don't really know what reasons. Obviously, you have Jaylen Brown in, but Tatum's still at 1.4 DraftKings points per minute in the games that Jaylen Brown has played this year. He's averaging like 37.5 minutes per game in those games. He just looks like a really good play, and I am perfectly fine getting over the field on him. I think the ownership is more or less where it should be, probably going a little bit under-owned. But Jaylen Brown also just, that one doesn't make a lot of sense to me at all, why he's not getting more ownership. Guard and forward eligible at 9,100, 1.2 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played with Tatum this year. He plays huge minutes as well. If that ownership comes up, then I'll probably end up, cutting back and coming in around the field. Like, I think Brown should be like 15, 16% owned. So if, as we get closer to lock, that ownership gets up to like 15, 16%, I probably end up around 15, 16% on Brown. But right now, with him projected at 5%, I'm getting like 30. It just stands out to me as one of the better spots on the slate to be over the field.
Yep, we're on the same page here. Don't really have much interest in the rest of Boston, though. I've got nominal shares of Smart and Horford, but I don't really see anything else here for the Celtics.
Yeah, I'm not getting to much else either. Just double checking that right now. But those were the two that I know are standing out for me, Brown and Tatum. But yeah, like getting like 10% Derek White, no problem with that. Getting, 5 or less percent Marcus Smart, Al Horford. The good players on the two best players on the Celtics are the two that I'm getting to the most.
All right, we can keep this one moving. This game is not going to take long to talk about at all. Cleveland Cavaliers, 2-point favorites in Miami, 214 total. That is 10 points off the next closest game and 15 plus into every other game that's in the 230s. Highest owned guy for Cleveland is 6% owned Karis LeVert. Pass aggressively on that one. I got to 2 shares of Jared Allen and nothing else. This is the same story we basically always have for Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm actually over the field right now on LeVert, but it's just because he's 4K. I have like 11%, nothing crazy. It's just whatever. Mitchell, Garland, Allen, Mobley. Like, I'm not getting to these guys. The field isn't getting to these guys. They're perfectly fine in terms of like a lineup here or there. You have 6 chalk guys and you want to throw Donovan Mitchell in and hope he drops 40 real points again. Sure. He's certainly capable of it. Very, very good offensive player. But a big thing for me is just what, because I've said it before that when you or I talk about the exposures we're getting to players, it doesn't necessarily mean that like, if you are playing somebody we're not, or vice versa, that like you're wrong, because a lot of stuff goes hand in hand. And like, I think Donovan Mitchell is a perfectly fine contrarian play, but it's going to be really tough for me to get to a lot of Donovan Mitchell when I think Jaylen Brown is going as underowned as I think he is, because they're similarly priced. And when I can choose between the two, I'm just going to play more Jaylen Brown because I think he is going more underowned than Mitchell is. So, it's another spot where like maybe if that Jaylen Brown ownership does come up before lock, like I was talking about, then maybe I go from getting like 3% Mitchell to, 8 or 9%. But right now, in a lot of the places where I would like Donovan Mitchell, I'm just playing Jaylen Brown instead.
Perfect. When we go to the Miami side of this one, Kevin Love is in for today. Not too much else that we could talk about for Miami. We still have no Kyle Lowry. Everybody else is available other than Nikola Jovic, who is still out. Actually, he might be with the G League now. Yeah, he's with the G League now. 6% ownership coming into Bam, 6 to Tyler Hero. There's no ownership coming into the Miami side of this one. Obviously, a very difficult matchup. I've got a little bit more Hero and Bam than I do the Cleveland side of this one, but it's not like aggressive or anything. But 8K Bam works, 7K Hero works. Just more favorable price tags, but still no like overwhelming priorities.
Yeah, it's just a slightly better price version of Cleveland. I'm getting 6% Bam, 8% Hero, basically no Butler, basically no Love. So same boat as you, same boat as the field, really. I think it's a little bit easier to get to the Miami side here, but still a pretty unappealing game, still a pretty unappealing matchup. They serve the same role as the Cleveland guys, where there's nothing where I'm not looking at any of this and saying like, oh, the field's wrong on Tyler Hero or the field's wrong on Bam. It's more so, hey, in this lineup, I need a 6% owned 8K center, so let's go to Bam.
Works for me. I mean, I had a bunch of Bam on Monday. That didn't work out. It looks like I'm getting quite a bit over the field on him again today. So maybe today it will work out. Seems like the perfect day to take Bam against the Twin Towers of the Cleveland Cavaliers. But that's where we're at right now. I don't have anything else here for Miami.
Me neither.
I do, however, have a little bit of a deal for you for Prize Picks. They are the sponsor of this show. If you want to sign up at Prize Picks, there's a link in the description here, or Jordan can drop it into chat. If you sign up there, you'll get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum and up to $100 on your first deposit. I'm putting out a Prize Picks video 6 days a week, getting some more out on my Twitter feed as well. I know others around these parts are also putting out a bunch of Prize Picks content. So we're giving you a lot of picks. We also have Prize Picks probabilities, over-unders for everybody, for all the props that exist on Stokastic.com. Different packages there if you're interested. I'm going to hit Adam with a couple fantasy scores for today, see where he lands for some of our favorite plays. So let's start with, we'll go to your team for right now. We'll go to your boy, Bradley Beal, over-under 39.5 fantasy points.
39.5, slight over.
Ooh, okay. I have a slight under on that one. So interesting balance. Not one that I would want to get to aggressively, though. That's for sure. Let's go to the guy that we talked about on the DraftKings side. This is going to be FanDuel scoring, but how do you feel about Trae Young at 42.5?
Over.
Yeah, I have the over there as well. Now, let's see if we can find somebody that's a little bit more interesting to talk about. Don't have anything in here for the Boston. There's the Boston guys. Jason Tatum, a guy that we both liked quite a bit on DraftKings because of his price. 51.5 fantasy points.
Ooh, under.
I have a slight under on that one too. We'll go to the other side then with Jaylen Brown. 41.5.
Slight under.
Ooh, I got a slight over on Jaylen Brown there. I kind of like Jaylen Brown more on the FanDuel side. Like from a scoring perspective, at least. One final one. This is going to be near and dear to your heart. How do you feel about your boy, Matisse Thybulle, over under 19.5? I have it way over.
Yeah, I mean, so do we, and I gotta hate this.
Well, you got to remember here, 3-point steals.
Yeah,
in this scoring system. So like 19.5, he can do that in just steals.
Yeah, I hate this.
You heard Adam here. Make sure you get all of the Matisse Thybulle. That is what we're saying. But you should get all of the Matisse Thybulle as a prop on Prize Picks. That one, I'm way north, and I believe we are as well.
John Morant out at least 4 more games.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Tough beat for him, man. He picked the wrong year to do this.
Yeah, the situation is wild. I'm interested to just see how exactly it plays out.
He's going to miss all NBA now and cost himself so much money.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's going to not end up coming back this year, but who knows?
I mean, the only way that happens is if they can somehow confirm that gun was on the plane.
They said that. Oh yeah, the gun on the plane. So the Colorado police said that there's nothing.
Yeah, which is exactly how that was going to go the entire time.
That obviously was going. Nobody was going to. Yeah, that obviously was going to happen.
There was a 0% chance that because John Morant held up a gun on Instagram Live that somehow a crime had been committed. Like that wasn't going anywhere. But if the league finds out that was on the plane, he is in real trouble. Yeah, we gotta stop quoting this 50 games thing. That's one of the dumber things that I'm seeing people talk about. Just because Gilbert Arenas got 50 games for having the gun when there were 50 games left in the regular season, doesn't mean it's in the CBA. It's an automatic 50 if you take your gun on the team plane. I was under the impression it was because of the Gilbert Arenas situation. I mean, that's probably why they felt the need to put it in the CBA. Arenas got 50 because that's what was left. Oh, I mean, I saw, and maybe like it could be wrong. I don't remember the source, but like I've seen it written that like it is explicitly in the CBA that it's an automatic 50-game suspension if you bring a gun on team property or whatever. I feel like I read it differently than that. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm the moron, which wouldn't be the first time or the last time. I'm quite confident in that. I didn't think it was in the CBA. I thought it was just because that was the suspension that what's his name got. Now I got to pull up my email. We're going to do this in a second. We're going to get to Dallas first. Let me hit Julio's super chat, which isn't going to really have the answer that he's looking for. Adam, you said if Jaylen Brown stays at 5%, you're getting to 30, but if his ownership goes up, yours will go down. What formula do you use to make that adjustment? A lot of stuff. But I mean, the general would be using something similar to like the boom bust tool, where you're evaluating how popular you think somebody should be, how often you think somebody's going to succeed, and their ownership, and then trying to weight the potential lineups that you could play using different metrics to, balance it out. So like, it's just naturally going to work out for me where if I think Jaylen Brown is going way on their own, I'm going to play more lineups that have Jaylen Brown. And then if I think he's not going way on their own, I'm going to get less lineups that have Jaylen Brown. There is no automatic 50-game suspension for someone who has a gun. So I don't know where that is not in the CBA. It does prohibit you from having a firearm for NBA business, but there is no explicit 50 games. Adam Silver can do whatever he wants in that scenario. I had to be right there. It was going to drive me insane. Because I knew I heard it this, I was like 99% sure I heard that in a pod earlier today. We're not that it matters. Again. Fantastic. Jordan sucks. Finally, Jordan. Finally. Obviously, like, this has nothing to do with you, though, right? Like, it's... All right. Dallas Mavericks, based on what I typed in like a moron, 2.4 point favorites in New Orleans, 234 total. Now, they are going to be without Reggie Bullock. They're going to be without Maxi Kleba. They're also without JaVale McGee, but that was news that no one needed. This team's weird today. So 18% ownership coming into Luka at 11.8, only 7 coming into Kyrie. We're getting 22% to Tim Hardaway, another 13 to Josh Green, and then 23 to Christian Wood. Let's get the stars out of the way first. How are you feeling about Kyrie and Luka? Happy with whatever I get to. It doesn't appear that it's going to be much, which is the first time in a while. Luka has burned me the last couple of times I played him, so I'm sure this will be the day that he goes nuts. But I'm under the field on Luka right now. I'm about even with the field on Kyrie if the slate started right now. I like the ceiling they both give you. Obviously they cut into each other's production a bit, but you're still at a fantasy point and a half per minute for Luka since Kyrie came. You're at about 1.25 to 1.3 fantasy points per minute for Kyrie. The upside's still there, and they're both playing big minutes. But the price tags haven't really adjusted, especially in Luka's case, where he's sitting at 11.8. Also mildly concerned about Luka's playing time here. I don't think that you should make any sort of huge adjustment, but this is the first back-to-back he's played in a few months. And
So maybe even if he plays like 34, 35 instead of 37, 38, you're talking about, losing a few fantasy points off the projection in that case too. So clearly the ceiling's still there, but the ownership's there as well. I'm not getting to much Luka, not getting to a lot of Kyrie either, but getting more in line with the field on Kyrie.
Okay. I got about 25% of Luka right now. Don't hate it, but we'll see where we end up there. Let's talk about the rest of these guys. So are you assuming Tim Hardaway just starts now?
Yes.
What kind of minutes are you thinking here? Because 22% ownership feels pretty big.
I would expect them to play low to mid 30s.
Okay. You don't mind that ownership at all?
No, I'm a little north of it, I think. We haven't projected at 22% ownership. I'm getting to like 32. So nothing too crazy there. But shooting guard, small forward on DraftKings makes it easy to get to him. Small forward being the big piece. Again, like where I'm not going to Brown, Tatum or Kuzma. That's typically a spot where I'm paying down, and you can only get so much Matisse Thybulle. So need to start working in some Tim Hardaway there as well. I don't really have an issue with that ownership. He does have a ceiling. Like you're not going to get the same usage from him as you would if Luka or Kyrie were the one out. But still, if he's going to play low to mid 30s, he's cheap enough that I'm fine getting to him.
What about Josh Green? 3,700, small forward eligible. Looks like he's probably going to have to play north of 30 minutes today. Only 13% ownership, not the best per minute guy. I don't feel like Josh Green and Tim Hardaway are all that different from per minute perspectives when Luka Doncic and Kyrie are going to be on the floor for most of this game. Like, it's not like Tim Hardaway is just suddenly falling into massive usage. I'm a little surprised to see. I mean, I guess the MPE and the fact that he is a little bit better is pulling the ownership, but I feel like I have a little bit more interest in Josh Green.
I'm getting like a little over the field on Josh Green as well. I'm just getting to both of these guys. I think that there's going to be plenty of minutes there. I'm not overly confident in either of them. Tim Hardaway does at least have enough of an offensive game that you can see him put up big numbers just like you did yesterday. Josh Green, like that doesn't really exist for him. So I certainly think the ceiling is higher on Tim Hardaway.
That I agree with. Now let's have the conversation that is very important to me. Christian Wood, 23% owned right now, 10 for Dwight Powell if we want to loop him into this conversation. Wood is 4,900. Do we expect more minutes? Should we expect more minutes? What are they going to do here with these two centers? Because I think it's important. And for right now, I have Christian Wood way too much, and I don't really know what I need to change.
Yeah, this spot really scares me. I'm kind of good with the way I'm approaching it right now. We haven't projected for 22, 23% ownership. I'm getting around like 13, 14% if the slate started right now. He's just down to a price point at 4,900 where if he plays like 20, 21 minutes, he still has a ceiling there because he can just play really well. But there are paths to minutes tonight if Jason Kidd wants to give them to him. There's no Maxi Kleber, there's no McGee. So I think on average, you're probably getting like 24 minutes from Powell, 20 to 22 from Wood. Markieff Morris maybe steps on the floor, but you could have a game where, you just get like 25, 26 minutes from Wood and you're really in trouble probably if you don't have him at 4,900 in that case. So the ceiling is really high. The ownership scaring me off a little bit just because it's already there, like he is going to automatically play 24 to 26 minutes, which I don't think he has to. The thing that concerns me the most is that Dallas still has plenty of wings. So we had the game the other day where Kleber was out and McGee didn't play. In that one, that was the game against Phoenix. In that one, you got 21 and a half minutes for Wood. You got 24 minutes from Powell. Powell was in the closing lineup. Markieff Morris played 2 minutes. And then I guess that's like 24 minutes. Or like 48 minutes rather. So that's what you got the other day. The difference between today and that is that Reggie Bullock's out as well. So Reggie Bullock played 39 minutes in that game. You could make the case that Christian Wood, gets minutes alongside Powell or, gets a few minutes alongside Powell. So, maybe he picks up minutes that way. That's certainly possible. The thing for me is just that we've seen Jason Kidd cut back his minutes. He clearly just still doesn't want to play Christian Wood a lot of minutes. That's what we saw a lot earlier in the year. We saw a little bit of a break where Wood was playing a lot due to injury. But then now we're back to Kidd finding other guys to play. So I think it's likely that you see Ntilikina enter the rotation. You see Justin Holiday play enough, play big enough minutes to where they don't need to play Christian Wood at the 4. And in that case, I think you are getting 20 to 22 minutes probably from Christian Wood. So there's several ways this can go. I think having exposure to him certainly makes sense because the price tag is so cheap. But I also think the ownership is just at a point where it's like the field is assuming that you have to get more minutes for Christian Wood here, and you really don't.
Yeah. My concern, it has nothing to do with like the way that we're looking at any of this game. I love the spot for him against New Orleans with Joval back because I think just from a way that they want to run this offense, so much pick and pop of Kyrie Wood, Luka Wood just really pulls Joval out, and they don't have Nance to fall back to. It then becomes like Jackson Hayes instead. So I know that I'm like overthinking this matchup. That doesn't have any like practical changes for me in my DFS output, but if they're ever going to go to Christian Wood, I like doing that against someone like Joval.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. The problem, especially in the regular season, though, is that like coaches 8 out of 10 times just go like, yeah, Joval's the center. We play Joval.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
And Jason Kidd goes, I hate Christian Wood. I'm not doing this. So
you have more interest in Dwight Powell then?
No. I'm getting like 2-3% Dwight Powell. He's just not a good enough point per minute guy. And you do have Jalen Williams on Oklahoma City, who I'm getting a lot of as a cheap center. And I already mentioned like I'm getting to Gafford a bit as well. So like that's a spot we talked about where I don't think Christian Wood is that different than Daniel Gafford to be getting 7 times the ownership. So I'm fine with having my 10% Gafford and 13 or 14% Wood instead of 22% Wood and 3% Gafford like the field.
Sure. No, not Theo Pinson, who should not see the floor today.
He is one of the many wings they could throw out there, but
yeah, I mean he's not going to play enough minutes to matter. Right. That much I'm almost guaranteed.
You do also not have Davis Bertans on the injury report, so like that's another guy that can play center minutes.
And Keefe, like they got a ton of options here.
Yeah, but like Bertans, I don't remember if he was out or not, but Bertans didn't play in that game against Phoenix where Kleba was out and Markieff Morris played 2 minutes. But like Bertans could easily, like you get a rotation where it's 22 Powell, 20 Wood, 6 Bertans.
Yep. And if the Pels happen to play Willie Hernangomez or something today too, then by all means play whoever you want at center for Dallas. All bets are off. Let's go to that Pels side where they're at full strength-ish. They're at full strength for the guys that have been playing. We still have no Zion for a while. No Jose Alvarado, no Larry Nance, but those guys are out for the foreseeable future. Josh Richardson is back. 20% ownership coming into BI, 10 to CJ, 5 to Joval. I like those 3 guys a lot more than what the public is showing. How do you feel about the Pels here against Dallas?
I'm with you. I had a naming error on TJ McCollum, so I'm not sure what I'd have if the slate started right now. But yeah, I'd have like 37% McCollum if the slate started right now.
That's exactly what I have.
Yeah, 46% Ingram, 19% Joval. I like getting to this team at not a lot of ownership. Dallas is garbage defensively. Yeah. These price tags are reasonable. Ingram did badly burn me the other night against Sacramento, but I'm perfectly fine going right back there. The minutes are there. You just need his shot to fall. You need him to play well, but that's the case for everybody. So I like getting to Ingram here. I like getting to McCollum. I think Joval should certainly be more than 4.5% owned. He's averaged about 28 minutes per game in the non-Larry Nance games this year. He played 32 minutes last game. This is like a 1.2 to 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. There's no guarantee he gets those big minutes, but at 4% owned, I'm more than happy to roll the dice there, get over the field, know the type of upside that he gives you. So really like getting to all 3 of those guys.
We're on the same page here. Guys, hit that like button if you can. 2,000 people in the house, 260 likes. I know that we could run that number up. Yeah, I have 37% Ingram, 37% McCollum, 17% Joval. So it looks like you and I are in lockstep there. I don't have any interest really in anybody else. If it's anybody, it's probably Herb Jones, but I have 4% of him. I don't have anybody else on the bench. Yeah,
I thought when I did the show this morning that I might get to some of these wings, but I think Richardson being back is just cutting most of my interest in them. Yeah, there's nothing else, and they're not getting ownership either. But yeah, the main 3 here are the ones I'm getting to.
All right, then let's go to the Chicago Bulls, 9-point dogs in Denver, 225 total. Standard issue stuff here for the Bulls. They don't really do anything all that weird. Alex Caruso is the highest owned Bull. He's 3,400. He's 12% owned. No one else is really pulling anything of substance. I'm not really getting to anything here for Chicago. Terrible matchup too against Denver. Do you want anything for the Bulls, or are the Bulls just Cleveland?
Yeah, they're another Cleveland Miami team. I wish I would be happy if I was getting to more than 2% Zach LaVine, because Zach LaVine's just a really good scorer. We've seen his usage rate tick up over the last month as well. Seems like he's fully healthy at a time when DeMar DeRozan may not be. Lofty and I were talking about it this morning. Over their last 10 games that DeRozan's played, LaVine's got a 31% usage rate. DeRozan's at 25.5%. For the season overall, in the games they've played together, DeRozan's around 28%, LaVine's around 28%. So you've seen LaVine take on a bigger role there. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible, but it's just still difficult to get to that price tag. I'm getting around 2% DeRozan as well, getting about 6% Vooch, pretty much just in line with the field everywhere on this team, with the exception of Alex Caruso. I'm not getting to 12% of him. It's fine. Like, he's 3,400. He's assuming he starts again. He should play 26, 27 minutes, but there's nothing that I'm getting a lot of from this team. If you want to play, in particular, Vooch and LaVine, those are the two that I actually like, but it's just still tough for me to prioritize.
All right. Well, we're on the same page there. Then we'll go over to the opposite side, talk a little bit about Denver, another team that doesn't really have anything all that interesting to be said. Like, it's the same thing we're getting as we normally do. Michael Porter Jr. is in. Chanchar is questionable. I don't really think that's all that relevant. And we got about 15% ownership going to Murray, Jokic, KCP, and Bruce Brown. Very minimal amounts going to Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. Who are you getting to here from Denver, if you're getting to anybody from Denver?
Yeah, this is a weird team. So I'm not really getting to Jokic, which, just like Doncic, scares me. But it's just tough for me on this slate with the way value looks right now and the fact that he is pulling ownership. It's not like you're getting a massive ownership discount on Jokic where if he goes out there and has a big game, you're just walking to the top of tournaments. He's still getting enough ownership that he doesn't really stand out. I'm pretty much in line with the field on Jamal Murray, coming in around 13%. I'm in line with the field on KCP, coming in at 19%, which, kind of like Matisse Thybulle, that's never something that feels good about saying, but the minutes are there for him. He's 3,900. One thing that's interesting is that we've seen Michael Malone just constantly changing up his second unit. Jamal Murray, for a stretch, was playing with the second unit. That makes Jamal Murray a lot better in DFS. In their most recent game, you had KCP with the second unit. I assume just trying to shore them up defensively. In that game, he got to 35 minutes. So, at 3,900, I think he's a little bit underpriced. Bruce Brown, probably a little bit underpriced as well. I'm getting to around 14% on him. Again, I don't feel great about it, but he's $3,800. So pretty much in line with the field there. I'm getting to the value pieces. I think Gordon and Porter as low-owned guys in tournaments are perfectly fine contrarian plays, but not priorities. If you're getting to Jokic, I'm not going to talk you off of it, but I'm personally not. And then Murray, I'm pretty much in line with the field there.
Yeah, right now the guy that I have the most is KCP at 3,900, which is rarely the thing that is most fun. So,
yep,
that's not a great time. Not a great time at all.
But when you think about it, it's just a matter of how the slate goes. You can say this is one of those where I'm sure people watching are saying I'm not playing KCP, but the problem is to build a functional lineup, you have to have some combination of Reddish, Thybulle, KCP, Brown, Isaiah Joe, DeAndre Hunter. These are Josh Green. These are all guys that are showing up that I don't like, but they're just they're what this slate is giving you.
Not fun. Yeah, and I have no Jokic. He's not a guy that I get to all that frequently now. He obviously fills the stat sheet. I still have him at over 1.6 fantasy points per minute. But the fact that he doesn't get that 34, 35% usage like the other top of the food chain guys, I end up just not getting as much of him lately. And, in this matchup, it's not all that great either. Ready to keep it moving?
Yep.
Oklahoma City Thunder, 13 and either, 2 touchdown dogs in Phoenix, 233 total. This is the game that's really just going to be ass across the board. OKC going to be without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no Jalen Williams, no Poku. Massive ownership coming into Josh Giddey, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. Let's start with that trio. Who do you like the most? Who do you like the least? Does it matter?
Of that trio, I'm getting to the most Joe, but I'm under the field on all of it. I still haven't decided exactly how I'm going to approach this team. I was talking to you about it before the show. There's so much volatility in the rotations here because, one, it's OKC in a situation that we haven't really seen before with no Jalen Williams and no SGA. We haven't seen that recently.
No
no
Kenrich
Kenrich.
too, if we want to. Yeah.
Yeah, no Kenrich Williams makes a big difference as well. Especially like you had Mark Dagnall talking yesterday saying that they wanted to use Jalen Williams at the 5, and so with no Kenrich Williams and no Jalen Williams, like does that mean more Robinson, Earl, and Saric? You know, it could. Could just mean more Jalen Williams of the one that's actually playing here too. So more on that in a second. But so there's the normal OKC volatility, but then you add in the 13-point spread. And so like I'm not getting to 33% Wiggins. I'm getting like 15. I'm not getting to 34% Joe. I'm getting like 25. I'm not getting to 31% Giddey. I'm getting like 12 or 13. But the part that I haven't decided what I want to do with that is normally I don't set rules like I'm about to say, but there's a part of me that wants to do something like, say, if I don't have Josh Giddey, bump the projection on Ousmane Dieng, Lindy Waters, Trey Mann, 10 to 15%, because Josh Giddey has averaged 1.3 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this year. The negative is that in games he's played with SGA, he's averaged about 31 and a half minutes per game. In games without him, he's averaged about 27 and a half minutes per game because it's just so much easier for OKC to get blown out if SGA is not playing. On top of that, you also have the set, the back-to-back here. So there's some chance that OKC just does weird stuff with Giddey's minutes. But if you get a situation where this game gets out of hand and Josh Giddey does lose minutes, Ousmane Dieng is playing more. Trey Mann is playing more. Lindy Waters is playing more. So I just kind of think that the projections here aren't the flaw with medium projections is always that like they don't tell the whole story. But here there's just so much volatility that I almost think I want to do even more than I normally do in this one spot to account for the massive range of outcomes here. But as is right now, I'm just not getting to I'm not getting to as much Giddey, Joe, Wiggins as the field. I'm getting over the field on Jalen Williams at 3,700, only pulling 9% ownership. I'm getting over the field on Saric at 3,400, only pulling 8% ownership. Like, I don't think there should be a 4-to-1 gap between Aaron Wiggins and Saric, given that Saric is the better point per minute guy. I'm not getting to much Ousmane Dieng or Trey Mann, but I do think that they're interesting tournament options at modest ownership and minimum salary. So I think it's a really tricky team. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with them.
Yeah, so we're largely in the same vein. Like, I'm not really getting to Giddey. I find him to be the hardest one that's getting the ownership to want to get to. I'm with you on the Jalen Williams play at 3,700. It's, to me, just it's worth the flyer at that price tag if he's just going to fall into more minutes. I can't stop getting Isaiah Joe. I was getting him before this. I've been getting him for like the past 2 weeks. It feels like he's just showing up in everything that I get. Not fun. And then Wiggins, I'm sort of neutral on. The $3,500 small forward thing is the piece that's really driving it home. Could he just go out there and play 15 minutes like he did this past Sunday? Yep. My problem here is my lack of trust, but his ownership makes the most sense to me out of anybody just because of his price and his position.
Yeah. It's just a team where I want to do what the field's not within reason, but yeah. I don't really dislike the way that if the slate started right now, I'd be approaching OKC. The only spot that I think maybe I'm like a little bit incorrect on or uncomfortable with is like, I think given my lack of Josh Giddey, I should have more Trey Mann and Ousmane Dieng. Yeah. But like right now, just getting a bunch of Jalen Williams as a low-owned value guy, there is opportunity cost at center, but it's not that crazy on this slate. Getting over the field on Dario Saric, who's not getting much ownership, but is a good point per minute guy, high ceiling guy, and then not having as much, still playing some Joe, some Giddey, some Wiggins. They are clearly good plays, but when they're in like a third of the field's lineups, there's just so many ways for this still to go wrong.
Anything else we can say here for OKC?
No, I wouldn't. Whatever you're doing or planning on doing, I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. Just accept it. Yep.
On the opposite side, we have Phoenix getting basically no ownership today. I'm a little bit more interested in these guys if it stays competitive. You got $9,500 Booker, $9,800 Durant, $5,100 Josh Okogie with shooting guard small forward eligibility is a guy that I'd like to have a conversation about. But do you see anything here for Phoenix at basically no ownership?
Nothing that really stands out. I did see somebody in chat say that if OKC stays in this game, it has the potential to be phenomenal for fantasy, and I agree with that completely. Yeah. This is definitely a game where, especially if you're on the side of it where like like me, where you're not getting to a lot of Giddey and you're not really getting to much Booker and much Durant, this game has the potential to just end your night. Giddey because he's popular, and if he does well, you're in trouble. And then Durant and Booker just because if they play 4 quarters. Yeah. Wait, what'd you say?
Because they're Durant and Booker.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And Kevin Durant played 40 minutes last game. Yeah. He is apparently that minutes restriction for the foreseeable future. The foreseeable future was like a week. It was 3 games. So you got 40 minutes, and it wasn't even like they did any semblance of limiting the stints or something. He played 22 of 24 minutes in the second half. I think there's a chance that you just get a little bit shorter rotations here because, it is OKC. They are 13-point favorites. They can try and play Durant like 36 minutes instead of 40. But I love the upside that these two guys offer. I like the upside that Ayton offers at a dropping price tag. His usage rate has plummeted in the 3 games he's played with Booker and Durant down to about 12.5%. But I think that's unsustainably low. Yeah. I think it ends up coming in lower than it was previously, but I don't think it comes into 12.5%. And he's still averaging nearly a fantasy point per minute, even at 12.5%, because he rebounds well enough. So I think that he's an interesting play. I'm not really getting there though. But all 3 of particularly Durant and Booker, but also Ayton, it's scary not to really get them, but I'd have like 5% Booker, like 1% Durant right now.
What do you think of Josh Okogie's minutes?
I'm not getting to him. I think the minutes are really volatile here. I think there's a lot of ways that can go. I think it is worth noting that in that Dallas game, he was shooting very, very poorly from 3. I think I had seen at one point he was 0 for 8 on corner threes. So like, one, his role is to play defense, but his other role is to knock down open corner threes. So in a game where he's not making them, it becomes a lot easier for them to just, take him out of the game and give minutes to other guys. If he is making those shots, though, I expect the minutes to be there. It's just that the price tag's still relatively expensive.
Alrighty. One final game to go. We got to go quick, but it's not a game that we have a lot to talk about. Late Night Hammer. Then we've got NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Toronto Raptors, 2.5-point dogs in LA, taking on the Clippers. Everybody that's normally in for Toronto is in. 15% ownership coming to Van Vliet, Siakam, and Jake Puddle. Minimal ownership coming into OG Anunoby and Scotty Barnes. I am barely getting to anything from the Raptors right now. I would also be fine getting to any real amount of any of the starters. Where do you land on Toronto?
Yeah, I'm not really getting to them either, which isn't great, but I'm getting like, 5 to 10% of pretty much everybody, it seems like, which is fine. Like you get plenty of upside from these guys. You have, 16% ownership coming into Siakam, Pirtle, 15% to Van Vliet. I'm under on all of that. I'm about even on Scotty Barnes. I'm a little bit over on a 2% owned OG Anunoby, but not by any crazy amount. But yeah, this is just a team where kind of wherever I end up, I'm going to be fine with it. I like the price tag on Siakam on DraftKings at 8,500. Yeah. But at the same time, he has warranted it. January 1st was the cutoff date I used this morning because I just remembered it was around the new year where you started to really see him take a step back. But you've gotten 30 games from Siakam since January 1st, 1.12 DraftKings points per minute, 26 games prior, 1.36 DraftKings points per minute. A big drop off for him. So, there is, on the one hand, it's like, oh man, he's only 8,500. How you're not playing him? But and the ceiling does still exist. But on the other hand, like he has deserved an $8,500 price tag for a while now.
We're on the same page there. I have nothing else to say here for Toronto. I mean, how do you feel about that ownership coming into Jake Puddle?
I think that it's fine. I think that the gap between him and Joval is too wide, and I think that's why I'm getting. So basically, I'm getting like the slate started right now. I'm playing Pirtle at the Fields Joval ownership, and I'm playing Joval at the Fields Pirtle ownership, which I'm perfectly fine with.
That was where I was leading you, so that worked out perfectly for me. And then
it actually makes me really happy with when I noticed that was happening, it made me really happy with just the way that my stuff is working.
Those are the times where you look at it and you're just like, oh, nice. This is how I would want it to work.
Right. Like this is how I designed this to work. It's nice when it actually does.
Yep. Finally, Clippers, everybody but Norm Powell is available here. No ownership coming in, 8% to Russ, 8% to Kawhi. If I'm getting to anybody, it's probably Kawhi. I have a small amount of Marcus Morris because he continues to be 3,500. Do you see anything for the Clippers?
I like the price tag on Kawhi. He and Paul George are suddenly like the same price. For a while, we were getting a pretty big gap there. But this is another one where I'm getting 9% Kawhi, 7% George, like 7% Westbrook. nothing that stands out, but getting to any of those three guys in particular, I think is fine. You mentioned Marcus Morris. He's cheap. It's just that there's not much for him to do on this team offensively.
I handled your business, by the way.
What? Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I don't have anything else here that I really need to talk about other than, being happy to get to Kawhi. Fun slate, man. It's a weird one. I need to go hash out a couple of these exposures. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Tobias Harris played yesterday, you idiot. No, that's it.
NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. Thank you guys for joining us for this one. Stick around, go nowhere. They're going to take you all the way up to lock and then some. Thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring this show. Maybe Jordan's internet will be better for Live Before Lock.
What is going on, everybody? And we're here to save the show. I heard there was a little bit of internet problems on the other show. Neil and I have fixed the entire problem. And also, shout out to our dear friend Mike Lawrence. He was very busy. He was laying some pipe, didn't even care. He was like, nothing's higher priority for me than being on this show and making sure that it's running smoothly. So we kicked Jordan out of here. Mike is producing now. Thank you for taking some time off your day off to join us. And guys, don't do it for us. Do it for Mike. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And it's another Wednesday. We had Eric, who before was on the betting show. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, go subscribe to our Odd Shopper channel. They've got a live betting show every day from 4 to 5. So instead, it's myself, joined by the Flannel God, the #1 XFL fan in the entire, I was going to say country, in the entire universe. Neil Orfield. Neil, what's happening today?
I don't know a bigger XFL fan. Yeah, I gotta applaud Mike. There are not many of us who will interrupt lame pipe for a show, but Mike will just do anything. The show goes on with Mike, so appreciate Mike Lawrence saving this show and withholding the pipe lane. This is an interesting slate in that I feel like most slates we are waiting on some news at this point. Like we're expecting big injury news. We're going to have value opening up. We don't really have that on this slate. This is kind of a it obviously could come, but like we're not expecting any huge news to come out that's going to really make somebody a great play, which these are the kind of slates that I rely more on the tools. Like if we already have all the information ahead of time, we don't have any incredible value on the slate. These are the slates where I'm looking closer at the boom bust tool.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's been a minute since we've had a slate quite like this, because if you look at the injury report right now, it's fairly clean. We've got Nurkic listed as questionable to play, but even if he goes, I don't think he's going to be relevant. He hasn't played. Let's see. When was the last time Nurk actually played a game? By the way, also a difficult matchup for him against the Boston Celtics. But we have not seen Nurkic play since February 1st. So we're looking at a really, really long layoff. It seems unlikely to me that he would play extended minutes, even if he's active. And he's the biggest name that's questionable in the injury report. Beyond that, it's Kinkara is questionable. Will Barton is questionable. Those guys don't really matter. So we're kind of playing this straight up. I'd say the thing that I am most curious about, and tell me if you would agree with this, Neil, that I think is going to be most important as far as news goes, is the starting lineup for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And whatever it is, it's going to make me upset. That's what I think we're really waiting for above all other things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess that is accurate, that we're waiting most. But like, even like, is there anybody who's going to be a smash for you if they are starting for the Thunder? Like, because they're so inconsistent with their rotations. Like half the games they have one starting lineup, and then the second half they replace two players from the starting lineup. I'm not going to be all that confident in the Thunder either way, but obviously it is going to, we're going to be leaning more towards the starters. So that could be big news if we get like, what do you think? Like Jeng is going to start?
It could be. We got that. So yesterday when Dagnall, the coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, was giving a press conference, he was going over the team and what they're going to be doing with SGA resting today and, Jalen Williams out. And something he had dropped as a soundbite is that Ousmane Dieng is ready for this. Now, what does that mean? Who knows, right? I mean, this guy's a dirty, filthy liar. He's not somebody to be trusted. But that kind of, to me, sounds like coach talk of this is a guy that we're planning to give extended minutes to. Is that what you were referring to, or was it something else that made you say Dieng?
Yeah, I think that's all the rumors that I've heard. I have nothing else to go on.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of on the same page as you. And, coach talk, like I said, a lot of it is lies, but like, why even, like, Ousmane Dieng is such an obscure player. Why would he even bring him up if there wasn't some sort of plan to give him extended minutes? So I definitely think that's a possibility. Oh, we did get some news just now. Peyton Pritchard has been ruled out for tonight's game. Now, that is not going to be massively impactful, but he was questionable. He's been ruled out. So let the people know that is news that just came across. But let's talk a little bit more about the Oklahoma City Thunder. And to your point before, Neil, that this is not a team that can be trusted. They run weird rotations. The starting lineup is not always indicative of who gets the most minutes. But at the same time, too, there's no Jalen Williams. There's no SGA. This is pretty clearly the best value spot on the slate. When I'm just running lineups as is, it's the team I get the most exposure to. So how are you going to handle this team in tournaments relative to some of their ownership? And I do think we could kind of go piece by piece with some of the more popular players here. And we could also look at the boom bust tool, which I know you're going to be relying on to really see where some of the best leverage is, who's over-owned, who's maybe under-owned for this team. But just what are your overall thoughts on OKC? And then we'll start talking about some of the individual players.
In general, I'd say I want to be under the field on some of the better value plays on OKC. Like they're the best value that we've got. So like I sort by value, and Aaron Wiggins is the best point per minute play on the entire slate right now. He's 3,500. We haven't projected for 21.5 points. That is the best point per dollar play on the slate. But I don't totally trust the Thunder rotations in general. It's a tough matchup with Phoenix. And Aaron Wiggins is not a great fantasy producer. So, I mean, we haven't projected for 29 minutes to get to 21.5 fantasy points. Of course, he could see that, but like if he gets 22 fantasy points rounding up, it's not going to kill my day if I don't have it. I guess it could, but probably not going to kill my day. And I just rather play some lower owned guys than the 39% guy who I think is, the field is playing him a little bit too much. And I think that he is volatile. So I think I'm going to end up underweight to the field on Aaron Wiggins and just play some other cheaper guys from other teams that are getting less ownership.
Also going to bring up, I'm going to tell you what some of these ownerships are. Looking at some of the most popular players from OKC, DraftKings, it is all the most popular guys at OKC. The number one most popular player on this league, you mentioned him, Aaron Wiggins, 39% projected ownership. Isaiah Joe, the second most popular projected player on DraftKings at 44% ownership. Then we have Josh Giddey coming in third, right under 30% ownership at 7,600. Over on FanDuel, it's a little bit different in terms of who the most popular players are. But with that said, there is massive ownership on Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe is projected for 63% ownership on FanDuel right now. The other players on OKC then are not as popular as they are over on FanDuel. So, I mean, on FanDuel as they are on DraftKings. So Isaiah Joe by far the most popular, but then there's a bunch of players in between before you get to Dario Saric at 22% projected ownership. And then the other popular players from OKC. Let's see, who else here? We got Josh Giddey is projected for 17% ownership on FanDuel. So a little bit different of an outlook, DraftKings relative to FanDuel. Since I assume you have the boom bust tool up in front of you, Neil, what does it say about Isaiah Joe, who's projected to be in just an obscene amount of lineups on FanDuel? Not too many times they're going to be a 7-game slate where somebody's projected for 63% ownership. So per some of the data on our site, does that ownership on FanDuel look too high, too low, or just right? And by the way, everybody should know that play Isaiah Joe in cash games, but for tournaments, what do you make of that ownership in the boom bust tool?
Yeah, so the boom bust tool, as I said, I'm relying on the boom bust tool today, and it is in line with my gut looking at FanDuel. And I was, of course, talking about DraftKings, talking about it earlier, but on FanDuel too, projected for 63% ownership for Isaiah Joe, 46% chance of being optimal, 17% chance of booming. He is the most negatively leveraged play on the entire slate on FanDuel for tournaments. Now, we talk about this all the time, like chalk in NBA isn't necessarily a negative thing. Like oftentimes chalk is very good. I think that Isaiah Joe is risky chalk today, similar to Wiggins. I think that these are just the chalk today is not as good as you'll find on a lot of slates. Like these are, of course, last night was an example that I would give of a slate that the chalk was great. And then of course it all sucked. So it doesn't always work out the way you're hoping, but I would say just objectively going in, Isaiah Joe going a little bit over owned on both sites in tournaments. I agree with you 100%. You play him in cash, but in tournaments, I think that he's a little bit over owned at 63%. And that is what the boom bust tool would say. Also, again, that doesn't mean that I'm fully fading him. I'm not like, I wouldn't make 150 lineups and not play any Isaiah Joe, but I'd probably try it to be underweight to the field, maybe half the field on Isaiah Joe, I think is a good way to play if you are trying to take advantage of the field's mistake a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some leverage plays, maybe some lower owned players we could get to from OKC in a second. But first, we've got a super chat to answer, and even more pressing. Why aren't you wearing a flannel today?
It's because they just weren't close by. This was the closest shirt to me.
So just Neil walks around with no shirt all day, just whatever's closest. This is what
I got a bathrobe.
Before I go live, we'll just grab whatever's closest by. Ace of Spade has left us his usual question, DK tiers. And he wants to know just the normal. Who are my favorite guys for DK tiers? I've got the lineups run. Tier 1 is Luka Doncic. Tier 2 is Jason Tatum. This is actually, I think Ace of Spade, over the time you've asked me these questions when I've run lineups, I think Jason Tatum in tier 2 is the most I've ever gotten to one player in any of these tiers when I've run lineups. Tier 3 is really tight. You can make cases for a lot of different guys. I got the most of Kawhi by a slight margin, but Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, I think all of those guys warrant some consideration. But if you're just going with one, Kawhi Leonard is my favorite. Tier 4, Trae Young stood out the most to me. Tier 5, I got the most to Bradley Beal. And then Tier 6, Josh Giddey, who we will be talking a little bit more about in a second as we talk more about OKC and some of the options there. And then also, we got the Thunder. This is the entire team, I guess. This is the entire team wants to know our favorite prize picks plays for today. And I'm happy he brings that up. Very coincidental. Do you know the sponsor is today, Neil?
No idea. Couldn't tell you.
Prize Picks. So very, very, very convenient. Thank you, Thunder. So Thunder, and by the way, Prize Picks is our sponsor. If you guys want to sign up at Prize Picks, use the link we have below. It'll get you up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Or you could just go sign up and use the promo code Greg. Oh, no, sorry, Greg OS. I forgot. Greg OS, because what happened is when we were making the promo codes, different sites, somebody had the audacity to already take Greg. Somebody had the audacity. So Greg OS, because Greg.
Are you mad more at the person who took it or at them for giving Greg away?
I'm more mad that we didn't come up with a more creative name for myself.
That's fair too.
I would have liked to have been Nerd Ass Greg. I initially had told our business department that I wanted my promo code to be fuckface. I thought that would have been a really big hit to getting people to sign up, but instead we settled on Greg OS. So if you guys want to go use the promo code Greg OS, really easy way to get access to all of the tools we have over at Stochastic for 1 month, and then also the up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. Now let's look at some of the projections that we have over at Stochastic.com, and we will find the best value for you over at Prize Picks. Also, guys, if you want to sign up for NBA Bet Pro, which is going to cover you for all of your prop betting needs, Prize Picks, NHA, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, we do have 1 week free trial, and there's a link for that below. But let's look at some of the Prize Picks props. Are you pulling it up as well, Neil?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, let's do. We'll each pick out one. We'll each find one we like to give to our friend the Thunder. All right, Prize Picks. Oh, I know this is one of your enemies. Josh Okogie is right towards the top of the board.
Not one of my one of my favorite NBA players, but yes, one of my nemesi in terms of DFS.
One of your many nemesises. So when it comes to Josh Okogie, I think this has been pretty consistent across all kind of prop platforms. I think Okogie's been undervalued for a little bit. Even with Kevin Durant back, he's maintaining a pretty significant role, and good matchup for him against OKC. They're going to be shorthanded tonight. His over-under for rebounds is 4. We have him projected at 5.1. And I know last game we only saw 1 rebound out of Josh Okogie, but look at him overall over the last couple of weeks. He's averaging 4.5 rebounds. Over the last month, he's averaging 4.8 rebounds. We've got him projected for 5.1. I like Okogie right there for over 4 rebounds. Nurkic has been ruled in, by the way. How about yourself, Neil? Which of these props that's projecting well for us stands out to you as one that the Thunder should be putting into his Prize Picks parlay?
Yeah, so Nikola Jokic under 0.5 3-pointers is our number 2 bet on the day, but unders are boring, Greg. Everybody knows you don't bet unders. So I'm going to go with Brandon Ingram over 5 rebounds. We've got him projected for 5.93, nearly 6 rebounds tonight against Dallas. We have the over hitting 64% of the time. So sign me up for some Brandon Ingram over 5 rebounds.
Somebody reached out to me on Twitter, I want to say about a month and a half ago, to let me know that he thought my recommendation of betting unders on props was immoral.
Because you're betting against, I think I remember this, because you're betting against the players, right?
Yeah, he said you're betting against the players, and he just said it's like a bad mindset or something. He said it's a very negative attitude.
Quit being so negative, Greg. I actually I was listening to an XFL broadcast where they were talking about that. Do you ever bet the unders? And I think they had this conversation multiple times, and every time the answer was hell no. Like, why would I bet unders? That's no fun. So it's good to know that that's a common thought.
Which might also to anybody, if you're betting in over, aren't you betting against the opposing team's defense?
That's a good point. Did you counter that argument?
I did. I don't think he ever responded. But either way, you're taking away, about half of the potential bets you could be making here. Always good to look at some unders as well. But anyway, I hope that helps you out there, the Thunder, with your Prize Picks parlay. The next question here is from Robert Cremutula. He wants to know, Greg, thanks for the Davidson pick this morning. I did. It was I've been giving out some college basketball bets on Twitter as of late. Davidson was one. I've been using OddsShopper. I don't know anything about college basketball, but I have been using OddsShopper, and it's helped me find some good value there. But yes, we were on Davidson this morning. They ended up winning. But then Robert wants to know, for DK Cash, what is the max amount of OKC guys? Who are your must-haves? So Cash is going to be totally different. Like, you don't have to worry about any kind of negative correlation. I think you're going to want to have quite a few OKC players in your cash game lineup, but who would I consider to be the safest? Who are the ones that would definitely be in there? Also, let me look at my highest projected lineup.
Yeah, so I wouldn't set a cap. I believe there are 3 in the optimal, and I think those 3 make it into, I just ran 20 lineups with no randomness or anything, and there are 3 Thunder players who made it into 100% of those lineups. So would you agree with me that it's those 3?
I would have 4 players in cash for tonight from the Thunder. For me, it would be Josh Giddey. It would be Jalen Williams. And Jalen Williams with a Y. It's actually very convenient that Jalen Williams is out right now. One of the Jalen Williamses. Now we don't have to worry about one. So now when I say Jalen Williams, you guys should know I'm talking about Jalen Williams with a Y. But yeah, for cash games, I would play Giddey, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe, and Aaron Wiggins. I would play all four of those in cash.
Interesting. Yeah. So I did not have Jalen Williams among my lineups in those top projected lineups, but that's probably just a very slight difference in projection. And it also might be because Christian Wood projects so well for Stochastic. So that takes up one of those center spots, and maybe doesn't project quite as well for you if you're not anticipating a bump in minutes.
Christian Wood's a tough one. So I think there is immense upside in him for sure. Just from a standpoint of the Mavericks are shorthanded in the front court. Christian Wood has also been a really good points per minute fantasy producer. I would say if he starts, he's the best center value on the slate. If he comes off the bench, I really don't know what to make of his playing time.
Yeah, it'll be tough. When is that game? Okay, so it's half hour after lock, so we should get this news.
Yeah, but reason to stick around for our post-lock show, by the way, guys, because we are going to presumably get some news on the Mavericks starting lineup prior to that. Same with OKC's a little bit later in the night, so we probably won't know with them. But here's the situation with Dallas for you guys who want to know what it is. Why we're talking about Christian Wood. Christian Wood hasn't been relevant in forever. I can't remember the last slate we were talking about Christian Wood. But Maxi Kleber's out tonight. Reggie Bullock is out, and JaVale McGee is out. So we have a team here that's very shorthanded in the front court. It stands to reason that Christian Wood could end up moving into the starting lineup and playing a big game. Here's the flip side, though. Jason Kidd does not seem to like Christian Wood very much, and Christian Wood is also a terrible defensive player. So at least to this point, we have not really seen Dallas play Christian Wood we've not seen Dallas play Christian Wood as much with the Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving combination because they want more of the defense on the court. So we'll see what ends up happening. I'm not exactly sure what the starting front court will look like. If it's Christian Wood, it wouldn't surprise me. If it's not Christian Wood, also wouldn't surprise me. I don't think he has to start, but he certainly could. And if he does start, he'd be one of the better values out there. But the other part of Robert's question is, who are the must-haves in cash? So I will say that you could play up to 4 Thunder. I personally like Jalen Williams a little bit more than our projection, so I would say he should also be in there. But the ones that I would say that you must have in cash would be Giddey, Isaiah Joe, and Wiggins. They all project really well, and they're the 3 most popular projected players on DK. So I would consider those 3 must-haves in cash. Is that fair to say, Neil?
Yep, 100% agree.
All right, so I hope that helps you out there, Robert. And was there another part of his? No, I just wanted to know what is the max amount of OKC guys and who are the must-haves. And let's answer this another way, too. If you had to answer one player that you think should be in a cash game, one of the best points per dollar projected players on the slate that isn't one of the OKC guys, who would you go with? My answer here, by the way, is going to be Jason Tatum. But how about for yourself? If you had to pick one guy who isn't one of the OKC players that Robert should have in this cash game, who would you be going with?
Man, it is so ugly out there. Just looking at the top of our value scores, not seeing anybody I love. Jason Tatum, I think, is a great answer. Just based on the optimals, I'm getting him in 60% of my lineups. Great point per dollar play. Trae Young, also one of the better point per dollar plays for us. He's down to 8,800. Nice matchup with Washington. I think I would throw him in there as well.
Yeah, no, I think you can get behind that. And then we'll see what some of the starting lineups look for these teams. It could change some stuff after lock. The one that most notably, if Christian Wood starts, play Christian Wood in cash games for sure.
Yep.
If he comes off the bench, still a good tournament play, but for cash games, could get a little bit dicey. Let's see if there was any other questions in the YouTube. No super chats right now. We'll check the Discord to see if you guys have questions for me in there. And by the way, also, if you guys have questions at me, Neil and I should not be reacting to as much news over the course of the next 30 minutes. So your questions, I think, could all be answered fairly quickly here. Heflove wants to know, is Justin Holiday a sneaky value play? Neil, large field tournaments, are you considering Justin Holiday as somebody to get to? So there are 3 Holiday brothers in the NBA. Justin Holiday is the one that we are being asked about. And I'm not projecting him particularly well. Neither are we over on the site. We've got him projected for 13.95 fantasy points. It's tough to project him for extended minutes. Obviously, this changes if he starts. If he starts at his price point, he would look really good. He is live to start in this spot. But as of now, I'm expecting him to come off the bench. I'm not getting exposure to him. What are you doing with Justin Holiday?
So I'm only playing 21 lineups once again tonight. I'm not planning on playing any Justin Holiday for the same reason you say. He just doesn't project all that well for us. He doesn't project as somebody who would get into my lineups unless I force him in there. And I don't think that I like him well enough to force him in there. We have him projected for little over 25 minutes and 14 fantasy points at 3,200. Obviously, there's room that you could spike an upside there. He could, play more minutes than expected, but not a great fantasy producer. I will say, looking at the boom bust tool there, he has slight positive leverage, 1.3% ownership, 2% chance of being optimal. So, you could play him in a large field tournament, but not one of the first players I'm going to.
Yeah, what are his numbers? So he's played 6 games now with Dallas. In those 6 games, he's playing 20 minutes per game and averaging 15 fantasy points. So if we were to just keep him at the same point per minute rate, and let's say he starts and plays 30 minutes, then we'd be having for like low 20s fantasy points. If he starts, I think he's worth getting to. If he comes off the bench, depending on how many lineups you're playing, I would say probably a no-go. If you're playing 1, 3 lineups, to say no Justin Holiday. If you're playing like 20 or more, I'd be okay with having him in one lineup or so. The next question is from Teely wants to know position by position closer to DK Lock. Yeah, we can wait. I don't think all that much is going to change closer to Lock. But we'll give it another 10, 15 minutes. 10 minutes, we'll say. It's 6:30 right now Eastern time, and then we'll go over. We'll have Neil do his most rostered players position by position on DraftKings, and I'll do it for FanDuel. Supak double OP wants to know CJ McCollum or Zach LaVine on FanDuel at shooting guard. All right, so for FanDuel, let's see. Zach LaVine is $8,100. It is very, very close. I'm going to say Zach LaVine. There's really minimal projection difference between the two. I'm going to say Zach LaVine for the purpose of number one, of being really close, and then him just starting in the later game. I think that's a fair tiebreaker.
Yeah, that's fair to me. Yeah, LaVine projects a little bit better, going to get a little bit more ownership than McCollum, but still not getting a ton of ownership. So I like that tiebreaker.
The next super chat, we got a couple of super chats that came in here. This one is from Diverse. Could Wood be a decent play if he starts tonight? He would not be a decent play if he starts. He'd be a great play. If Christian Wood starts, one of my highest priority plays on the entire slate. And I think I'd say it's like 50-50 whether he starts. And if he comes off the bench, he's still in play for me. If he comes off the bench, I'm probably going to get him in, like, if I had to guess, like 25% of lineups or something like that. If he ends up starting, he'll be in well over half my lineups. But yeah, it starts, play him. Cloud LLC. My mom's boyfriend said he loves some Wood tonight. Should I agree and play Wood or just tell my mom? What are you going to tell your mom, though? I want to know what that conversation is. What information you're relaying to her?
I'd say tell your mom and report back.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Set up a video camera. Just see what it is that's going on up there. Get one of the bears. The bears with the camera in its face. Just make sure you're surveying the situation. Everybody's safe. By the way, we're getting a lot of questions about Christian Wood tonight. I don't know how many different ways we could answer the Christian Wood.
He's an interesting dilemma. I get it.
We like Wood. Neil and I have had many conferences about this. We like Wood.
We love Wood.
Love it. We'll read that one more time. My mom's boyfriend said he loves some Wood tonight. I also think that you wanted to phrase your joke differently.
You don't think it was phrased correctly?
Yeah, I know what he's getting at. I think he phrased it. I don't think he phrased it how he wanted to.
Right.
What about your wife's boyfriend? What about your wife's boyfriend? What is he into? Gangrene wants to know Beal or Giddey tonight. I'm fairly sure I have more exposure to Giddey, but I'll check.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, I've got a lot more.
Yeah,
Giddey
that's
currently.
Giddey. That's Giddey.
I am still making adjustments like for ownership and stuff like that, but.
Yep. Give me just a 1v1. Give me Giddey. Give me Giddey over Beal. Then we've got Heflove wants to know who's the best DK utility play for 4K and under. So Neil, if you could play anybody, any position, 4K or under, it's utility spot, who'd be your guy that you're going to?
All right, let me look. 4K or under.
4K or under is the price point.
Consider Contavious Caldwell Pope. Looks like he is our best point per dollar play, or not point per dollar, but our best projection under 4,000, I believe. I've already made some adjustments, so I could be wrong about that. Maybe Wiggins did project. No, KCP projects 0.02 fantasy points better than what we had Aaron Wiggins at. Matisse Thybulle is at 22. So I guess Matisse Thybulle probably the best 4K or under projection, at least.
Yeah, so for me, if it's just projection, it's Matisse Thybulle. If we're also incorporating ownership, I do like Jalen Williams as a lower owned GPP option. We didn't actually really, I forgot that I wanted to ask you about that, Neil, because I have my answer. If I'm playing one guy who's lower owned for leverage on OKC, the value play people aren't really getting to, it's Jalen Williams for me. I think there's massive opportunity for him to play extended minutes tonight. Who is it for you if you had to pick a lower owned guy from OKC to target in tournaments?
All right, let me think about this. I think it's probably Jalen Williams for me also. Dario Saric, if he is starting, I mean, it's going to depend on the starting lineup, really, is my answer. So if we get Saric in the starting lineup, I'm going to like him. If we get Jeng in the starting lineup, I'm going to like him. It really depends on who ends up starting here. But as things stand right now, I think Jalen Williams looks like the strongest bet. We've seen him have some just monster games. Yeah, he's only 3,700. It's tough because he's center only, so like doesn't have the roster flexibility of a lot of these other guys, but I still think that's where I would go.
And let's see, what was the next question we had here? Mustang Man Mike. 5 must plays in FanDuel Cash. So if somebody was building a FanDuel Cash lineup right now, who would we consider to be the must plays? This is pretty easy for me because there is some massive ownership on FanDuel, right? When you see guys like Isaiah Joe is going to be 63% owned in large field tournaments, you're playing him in cash games. When Thibault's expected to be in half the field lineups, you're playing Thibault in cash games. Same goes for Brandon Ingram, Fred VanVleet. And then there's a little bit of a drop off. There's a bunch of guys like Okogie. We've got Valanciunas, Derek White. Let's see, based on the lineups I built, I would say Valanciunas. So that would be the 5 for me. Isaiah Joe, Matisse Thybulle, Brandon Ingram, Fred VanVleet, Jonas Valanciunas. Those are the 5 that I think you should be building your cash game lineup around. Mustang Man Mike.
I like it.
The next question that we have, this comes from our Discord channel, which, by the way, if you guys haven't signed up for a Stochastic Plus package, one of the perks is you get into our Discord channel. You get to ask us all the questions you want. If you guys don't get enough of trolling Eric on shows, you can do it in our Discord channel. One of the perks is signing up for Stochastic Plus Platinum membership. And if you sign up using the link that we have below, it is going to give you 50% off the first package you sign up for. So that could be anything from a Platinum package to even our lineup generator package, which as is costs less than $10. So you can get access to all our lineups that we have in the lineup generator, less than $5. And I think that's actually something Neil and I could look into. We could build some lineups using the lineup generator since there's a little bit less news going on. So what I'm planning to do here, Neil, we'll answer the questions we have outstanding. And then Mike will pull up the lineup generator and Neil and I will look at some of the lineups in there and we'll build some lineups out using the lineup generator. Just locks. Thoughts on Trae Young for FanDuel GPP? So when I was building out FanDuel lineups before, I think Trae Young looks better on DraftKings than he does on FanDuel. Part of that is because of the 3-point bonus and then also because of the less of a penalty for turnovers. But out of 150 lineups that I built on FanDuel, I got to 13% of Trae Young. I think he's viable, but he's not really a high priority play. On DraftKings, I find him to be a fairly high priority play, but this was a FanDuel question. Vince, 1979 Gator, best forward play under $5,500 on DK. So forward could be small forward or power forward. 55 under 5,500. That's kind of a dead zone.
Yeah, let me see.
It can't be.
Al Horford is power forward eligible. He is our top projected play for 5,500 or under. So I guess.
Well, he said. So here's if he said under 5,500.
Oh, under 5,500. Okay.
So if it is 5,500 and under, it would be Al Horford. If it's not, I have it as Tim Hardaway Jr., but you are leaving quite a bit of salary on the table there. So you'd be upgrading another lineup spot.
Yep.
Anybody else that stand out to you there?
nobody that stands out like in that price range where I would not be upgrading another position. So like I think that's you'd probably go to Tim Hardaway Jr. and upgrade somewhere else. NBA, you're typically not trying to leave 1,000 plus on the table. So I think I would probably be upgrading elsewhere if I go with Tim Hardaway Jr. I will say that some of the players that I like, who I do think are going a little bit under-owned given their range of outcomes and likelihood to hit higher, are some of these forwards on Atlanta. So I like John Collins a little bit with the hope that he hits some minutes upside. I like Bogdan Bogdanovic a little bit with the hope that he hits a minutes upside. These guys are both under 5,500, but they're enough under 5,500 that I wouldn't just put them in and leave the lineup like that. It would be, again, upgrading elsewhere.
And Big Dream $sign left us a question, and help me out with Crucifix on FanDuel. He's 5,900. Crucifix. Oh, that's actually very funny. Christian Wood. So that's the nickname we're going. I dig it.
I never heard that one. That is funny.
Yeah. So Christian Wood, the Crucifix here, according to Big Dream $sign, $5,900 on FanDuel. He's projected for 21% ownership. If he starts, what's a reasonable floor for his score? And given that, why do you like him more than in the earlier games? If he starts, what's a reasonable floor for his score? Given that, who do you like him? I mean, I would like him more than almost everybody in the early games if he starts, Christian Wood.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if he starts, he's going to be just a great play. So Christian Wood, we have him with a 5.5x value in 22 minutes projected currently. If he starts, we're going to probably bump that projection up to 28 minutes. And he's just going to look like the best play on the slate if he ends up starting.
And there'd be upside for him to play more minutes than that.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If everything goes to go well and he's playing well, he's a good fantasy producer as well. Like we could see over 30 minutes from Christian Wood in a start, but we don't know exactly what that starting lineup is going to be. But the other part of Big Dream's question is, who would we like him more than in the earlier? There's only one game that's earlier than that, and I would like Christian Wood more than anybody in the Atlanta and Washington game.
Yeah, if he starts, yep.
Yeah, so there's nobody I would take over him in those in the early slate of games. So let me just double check and make sure that there were no more super chats. There aren't. Oh, but one thing that I did want to do, Neil, I mentioned it before, to T. Lee's question before we look at some of the lineup generator. You do it for DraftKings. I'll do it for FanDuel. If you have a crunch built out in front of you, tell me who it is you got the most exposure to position by position. We'll go back and forth. So you start with point guard. I'll go point guard. Then we kick you back to you for shooting guard. But point guard, these are the ones that popped up most often for me on FanDuel. It was Isaiah Joe and Fred VanVleet. How about yourself? Point guard on DraftKings.
Josh Giddey, Luka Doncic, and DeJounte Murray.
Shooting guard ended up being Josh Okogie and Tim Hardaway Jr. By the way, Bradley Beal was just in one less lineup than Tim Hardaway Jr. So Okogie, THJ, and then Bradley Beal there. Very, very close between all three of them. How about you? Shooting guard on DraftKings were a couple of players that popped up most meaningfully for you.
Yeah, and I should say at point guard, I also had Trae Young in just as many lineups as DeJounte Murray. But shooting guard, it's again Giddey number 1, Tim Hardaway Jr. number 2, and then Isaiah Joe, I do have in a third of my lineups currently.
Small forward was this one's pretty easy on FanDuel. I think the players that warrant the most exposure in large field tournaments are Matisse Thybulle and Brandon Ingram. It's funny though, Matisse Thybulle is so popular that in my build, I did come in underweight to the field on him, but he was still my most rostered small forward because he's just in so many lineups over on FanDuel. Small forward on DK, who came out for you?
Yeah, so again, it's Tim Hardaway Jr. and then DeAndre Hunter and Bogdan Bogdanovic.
And then at power forward on FanDuel ended up being Pascal Siakam, Dario Saric, and Christian Wood. How about you at power forward?
Yeah, so this is where some of my biggest stands come in. Kevin Love, I gave a good projection boost to, followed by John Collins and then DeAndre Hunter.
And then at center, Jonas Valanciunas, and then a couple other guys I mentioned power forward. We got Saric with center eligibility, Christian Wood, but Valanciunas the one who is center eligible only. Yourself, Neil, DraftKings, which centers popped up most often?
So I have Christian Wood in nearly half my lineups, and then I have 3 players each in 6 lineups, those being Clint Capella, John Collins, and Jalen Williams, 6 out of 21.
All right. There we go. So hopefully that helps you guys build out your lineups. And in the meantime, we've got a couple more super chats to answer, and then we're going to build some lineups using the lineup generator and just see which players using all the tools that are available on our site. That's really what some of these simulations are based on when it comes to the lineup generator. It's going to spit out some really plus EV lineups. And if you guys are in a scenario where like right now you're just getting back from work, it's 20 minutes to go until lock, and you don't have time to read content, look at all the projections, we got the lineup generator. Simple way for you to build up to 20 lineups, export them to FanDuel and DraftKings. And if you sign up for it below, you get it for less than $5. But let's answer these questions. Don't look up the lineup generator. First from my fill arc, Tim Hardaway Jr., Thibault, or Hunter. So of those players, let's see. And so I guess he's the salary cap space for any of them. With that in mind, Tim Hardaway Jr.
Who are the people again?
So he has the availability to play Tim Hardaway Jr., Matisse Thybulle, or DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, I think it's probably between Hardaway Jr. and Hunter for me. But yeah, I'd probably go Hardaway Jr.
All right, so THJ, we have a consensus. And then our guy Robert Krumachula coming right back. Luka and Hardaway or Ingram and Beal on DK. Tough one.
Huh.
Mike, could you pull up our player comparison tool for this?
Good thinking.
It was funny. There was a split second there where I could hear him listening to it in the back. I don't know if you caught that as well.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
I don't know if chat could hear that.
I don't know if that either, but I had to hear nothing worse than hearing yourself talk, which
it is the worst.
I had to listen to that for 0.5 seconds. Nearly killed me, but I survived. Let's see for the 2v2. And to read those players off again, this is where'd they go? Oh, on one side, Mike, put in for me Luka Doncic. There he is. Easy enough. And Tim Hardaway Jr. He's on the same side. Yeah. Timmy. Now we're going to go with Brandon Ingram and Bradley Beal. Brandon Ingram, Bradley Beal. And now let's compare them. Let's see what we ended up getting to here. Well, I think this goes to show how tight it was. 50.1% to 49.9%, according to our data over here. So this is as close to a toss-up as it could possibly get. How are we going to break the tie here, Neil?
I mean, one of them has two players that are not on the same team. If we're breaking a tie, fair. I'd say break it that way.
Fair. We could do it that way. Brandon Ingram, Bradley Beal as the guys to go to. One thing I'll also say that could sway this is that Tim Hardaway Jr. is somebody else who could potentially end up starting for Dallas today. If they go smaller, that would make him look better. But as things stand now, I like where your head's at, Neil. We'll go with Brandon Ingram and Bradley Beal as the combination there for Robert. But I think both of those are fair combinations, and our tools just showed how tight it is between those. James Magruder wants to know who my favorite players are on DK. So obviously OKC value stands out a lot. If I had to go with a lower owned OKC player who isn't, Giddey, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, I like Jalen Williams as one of the more contrarian OKC value plays. Other guys I got to a good amount. Jason Tatum is my most rostered pay-up option. And then Brandon Ingram is also somebody who in like the upper mid-range tier that I also played a whole bunch. So I kind of core my lineup, some OKC value, Tatum, Ingram, and Christian Wood certainly as well if he starts. So those are some guys that I think you should be building around. Cornell Granville. Nurkic is in. How much are you not playing Reddish and Grant on FanDuel? How much am I not playing them? So this is like the inverse. So it's like if I have 20% exposure, I'm not playing them 80%.
Yeah, right? I guess that's how you have to answer it.
All right. So how much am I not playing them? So, well, let me just go to here's the easiest way to answer. I'm going to go to the exposures I got in the lineups I ran for FanDuel, and I can tell you what I got. I got to Reddish in 9% of lineups, which means that he's not in 91% of them. And then I got to Jeremy Grant's super expensive. He's $7,800 on FanDuel in a tough matchup against Boston. He only popped up in 1% of lineups, which means that he was not in 99% of them. So that's how much I'm not playing them at the moment.
It's a lot.
And there we've got a tweet right there from Chris Haynes, retweeted by the news god himself, El Negro Loco. Portland Trailblazer center Yusuf Nurkic will make his return against the Boston Celtics after being sidelined since February 1st. And yeah, that's why I think Nurkic, what he does, his inclusion into the lineup is he's going to take away minutes from some of these front court guys, but he's also not going to be relevant enough himself in 22 to 24 minutes he plays. So he takes away from other guys. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. It's tough to play him. He actually earlier in the day he looked great in terms of leverage. Actually, still he is our top leverage score, but it's one of those rare cases. I said I'm relying on the tools today. 6,500 Nurkic though, it's just so hard to envision him playing enough minutes to pay off that price tag in any kind of meaningful way. So I think I'm fading him despite the positive leverage in the boom bust.
Yeah, he might end up playing like 18 minutes even. We'll see. Hard to know exactly, but not enough to be relevant in my opinion. Eric's tiers. Yes, sir. We've got him back here today. The beverage of choice. Get it in. Here's what's really thanks, Mike, for making it bigger. Here's what's really hard about this, as I've realized, is that the camera goes out of focus when you're trying to show it up close. But these are Eric's tiers. This is the saltiest drink that you guys will find anywhere on the market, and nothing tastes better. Eric's tiers. Also leaves us a super chat. Is Josh Richardson a decent play tonight? He was only out for personal reasons. I feel like his price isn't high enough unless I'm missing something. Josh Richardson, is he somebody that you are playing tonight?
It's definitely an interesting question. How much am I getting of Josh Richardson? I currently don't have any, but I kind of think that's a mistake. I kind of like that call of Josh Richardson potentially playing more minutes here. He only played 20 minutes the last time out. Hasn't played since March 1st. He had been playing upper 20s, lower 30s a minutes. So I kind of like that call out, to be honest.
So something else to consider is, all right, the last time Josh Richardson was active, there was other players out for New Orleans. So I'm going to pull this up. If he starts, obviously, then that would be a pretty positive sign.
Right.
But the last game he played, let me go through the minutes here. So last time we saw Richardson play, he started and he only played 20 minutes. So that's a knock against him.
That is.
And Valanciunas was out in that spot. So we didn't have as much opportunity for New Orleans to go with bigger lineups. It's tough. Just considering that information, last game he started, he played 20 minutes, and Valanciunas was out. Now we got Valanciunas back, more opportunity for the Pelicans to play bigger lineups, and he only played 20 minutes in that game. The game before he played 27, there was some foul trouble. It's hard to reliably say he plays a lot of minutes. It's within the realm of possibility, but I am not playing him right now.
Yeah, so I guess my answer is it's contingent on him starting. If he starts, I think there's enough upside there that I'd be interested. If he doesn't start, I'm probably just not playing him.
The next question is from Justin Cravens. Hump day. Yeah. Love and happiness to the crew. Thank you, Justin. Nothing but good vibes. And guys, if you guys want to have good vibes like Justin, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every time you like this video, your fantasy lineup scores 5% more fantasy points for the night. Nobody told you that, but that's one of the things that goes into our projections. It's like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Another super chat. I was going to go over to the lineup generator, but let's answer Devin Neiman's question. Center utility and single entry, Ayton and Trae Young or Woods and Jokic. That's Wood and Jokic for me. Especially if Wood starts.
Yeah, if Wood starts, I think it's a slam dunk.
All right, so we've settled on Wood and Jokic as the preferred side of that. Now, Sean Raza. Is Eric Gordon a good contrarian play on FanDuel for GPP? I feel like that's a no, but let me check. Did I end up getting to any of Eric Gordon? So the other thing to keep in mind as well, no, I didn't play lineup. I didn't end up getting to any lineups with Eric Gordon. He's 4,800, so his price has gone up a little bit on FanDuel. And also, this is a healthy team that OKC's throwing, that the Clippers are throwing out here. Because we saw some games where Eric Gordon played extended minutes, but that was when guys were out. Now with everybody healthy, his price point a little bit more expensive. Eric Gordon, that is going to be a no for me.
I think I agree with you. He has positive leverage in the tools. Looking at FanDuel, we've got him at 0.4% ownership with a 1.7% chance of being optimal. So he has a little bit of positive leverage. If you want to play him in the largest field GPP, I guess he's viable, but I'm not playing any.
And the next question here is from Vince 1979 Gator. Jonas Valanciunas or Jared Allen? Hate getting to Hurdle. I like Valanciunas tonight a little bit.
Yeah, I like Valanciunas quite a bit tonight.
Gangrene, Okogie, and Giddy or Reddish and Ingram? Let's see. Okogie and Giddy or Reddish and Ingram. That is Okogie and Giddy for me.
Yeah. I don't love playing. Like I think I've sworn off playing Josh Okogie, so I don't know if I can play him at this point, but that's probably the better play.
Okay, now let's pull up the lineup generator and really quick, Mike. Let's give the people some lineups. If we were just running some lineups based on our site, our projections, the way this works is we run a bunch of simulations, we build out lineups, and all of these lineups being pulled here are lineups that we do expect over the long haul to be plus EV lineups in large field tournaments over for DraftKings or FanDuel. Let's build balanced lineup here, Mike. Let's go to balanced. Skip, we're not going to lock anybody into this. And by the way, also, if you guys want to sign up to this, use the link below. Get this for less than $5 the first time you sign up. Just scroll down, show people how they could delete or save lineups. You could also swap any players out that you guys don't like. It's a potential option. And then at the end, you're going to see all of your lineups and all the exposures to those players. You can export it right from here to DraftKings. We are for FanDuel. You could upload them to FanDuel as well. You don't want to upload your DraftKings lineups to FanDuel, but this is just an idea of what the players will look like. And then, let's look at the player exposure. I'm trying to make it out, but it's very small for me.
So they like the players that I'm going underweight to the field on. So hate that. But they're starting with Aaron Wiggins. Looks like he is the highest owned, maybe 85% of lineups. Isaiah Joe in 50%. And then we get to Trey and Luka and then Josh Giddey as the higher price players who are getting into a lot of lineups.
Yeah, lots of OKC. And by the way, this is even with the balance lineups. This wasn't even going the chalk. If we went chalk, it would have been super, super heavy on some of those OKC guys. But it just goes to show how well they're projecting out from points per dollar. And something else that makes a lot of the OKC guys pop out too. We don't really have a lot of value in other spots, right? Like we got, if Christian Wood starts, he'd be another one. But it's not like this is a slate where we have like 3 or 4 value teams to look at. It's predominantly just OKC. So that is why they're popping up in lineups most frequently. Let's go back into Discord and make sure there weren't any questions that we missed out on. And not in there. How are you doing on your lineups, Neil?
I'm good. I've submitted some lineups that I would be okay with.
Okay.
If I don't make any changes.
I'm about to do that right now.
A little bit more KCP than I'd like to have. I have like over 50% KCP now because I cut back on other players. I don't really love having a ton of KCP either. So maybe I'll cut back there. But for the most part,
who's the player you have the most exposure to that you're the most uncomfortable about other than KCP or is only KCP the answer?
Yeah, KCP is the answer. Yeah, I mean, so I've got a lot of Bogdanovich, for example, but that's like a risk that I know that I'm taking. Like he obviously could fail in this spot, but I know going in that that's a risk that I'm taking. It would be KCP right now for me. I cut back on the OKC guy is a good amount. Kind of a lot of Alex Caruso, 25%, but I mean, it's KCP because I've got him in over 50% of lineups. That's just too much. I have 43% Tim Hardaway Jr. and Christian Wood. A lot of risk there. I think this is a slate where there is not a lot of value that is not risky. I think there's a lot of risk inherent in all of these value guys. So I'm choosing to go with the value guys who are going less owned.
So what's really difficult for why are my lineups not uploading? Upload. So one thing that's really difficult to me about this slate is that it involves Josh Giddey and it involves OKC. Yep. I am never on the right side of Josh Giddey this year.
Nobody is.
It's so difficult to figure out what OKC's lineups are going to be. And I just feel like I've always come out on the wrong side of it this year. There was like one Isaiah Joe slate where he was really low owned that I ended up being on the right side. But what are you doing with Josh Giddey relative to his ownership? Because this is one guy who is making final adjustments. I know I'm going to play a good amount of him. I'm just not sure relative to ownership if I want to be above the field, at the field, or underweight. Right now, I am overweight. Should I feel okay with that, Neil?
So right now, I am also overweight and also don't love it because I'm playing a lot of Tatum. I'm playing a lot of Lillard, these guys, but I think I'd rather get to more of. I think that it's partially because I cut back on the value so much and Josh Giddey is kind of a mid-range play that my builds are more mid, or they're not like stars and scrubsy as much as I usually play, which is forcing a lot of Giddey. I'm not that comfortable. It's a tough matchup with Phoenix. It is obviously Jalen Williams without the Y is out, Shea is out, so that helps. Giddey should have a ton of usage here, but definitely always risky with these OKC guys. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it. I have over 50% Giddey now. I think I'm going to cut back a little bit and try to get to a little bit more of like Jaylen Brown.
Okay.
from mid-range.
Quick super chat here. This one is from Merrill. Peak KCP or Reddish? I have more of KCP.
Me too.
It's tough with, I don't know what Portland's rotations are going to look like with Nurkic now in there. Thibault, I think, is still a cash game play because he's so popular on the slate. But there's a little bit of variance there. Same goes for Cam Reddish. So I am going to go the other way with that and say KCP. KCP over Cam Reddish. Anything else standing out to you about your lineups as we're a few minutes to go until lock?
Yeah, I mean, very, very much playing mid-range here. Like all of my top plays aren't the $3,000 players. They're all like 4,000 to 9,000 type players. So getting a little bit underweight to the field on like Luka, which I don't love that being underweight to the field on Luka and Jokic being underweight to those guys. That scares me a little bit, but I think that's probably the direction I'm going here. I don't know. They're not that high owned either, Luka and Jokic.
No, not at all. We've got Luka right now on DraftKings. Oh, this for DraftKings and FanDuel. Actually, I'll also refresh the ownership to make sure I'm looking at the most recent run, but not that much has changed as of late. Just want to make sure that I'm bringing you guys all of the latest data. Luka is projected for 17% ownership over on DraftKings, and we've got Jokic projected for 13%. That is for DraftKings. If I go over to FanDuel, Luka is projected for 19% ownership, and Jokic is projected for 8% ownership over on FanDuel. So for those studs, I ended up being underweight to Doncic, overweight to Jokic. How about yourself?
Right now, I'm underweight to both of them. Actually, I just ran a new crunch. Let me see what this one gave me. I am okay. So this one gave me 0 Jokic. So this is not going to be my final crunch. I don't want to have 0 Jokic. It did have me overweight to the field on Luka. Part of the problem is I'm just going to more Dame Lillard because the field's only playing 5% Lillard. I kind of like that despite the tough matchup. I'm going to more Jason Tatum. I'm going to more Jaylen Brown. So I'm just choosing some different studs who are going a little bit underowned. I still don't want to have 0 Jokic though.
And some people are asking about the Hawks starting lineup. The Hawks are starting. It's the normal starters. It is. Just read off and make sure we got it right here. But Young, Murray, Hunter, Collins, Capella. Normal starters for them. Nothing crazy there. Let's see. Any other questions before we get to lock? I want to make sure that we didn't overlook anything. And nothing in Discord. Nothing in YouTube. So with that in mind, who's the player that scares you the most today? Just for any reason, a player either you don't have enough of, you have too much of. Who is the number one player you look at your lineups and say, this could go poorly for me?
Probably Aaron Wiggins, just because I'm way under the field. I have like 23%. The field is 20. I don't remember exactly what the field is at, but he's getting a ton of ownership. I think 37% or so. So way under the field on 39% by the field projected ownership. So pretty well under the field on Aaron Wiggins. Probably he's not the right answer because I'm not that scared of Aaron Wiggins. Like I don't think that he's likely to put up 30 fantasy points. I'll be scared if he starts off hot. Christian Wood, probably my biggest actual fear, because I do have him in almost 50% of my lineups right now.
Yeah, so for me, I mentioned before, it's got to be Josh Giddey. I just don't know what to do with his minutes ever.
Yeah.
Especially in a game that has, some blowout risk. We've got, what are the Suns favored by now? 13.5. That's a pretty wide spread. So Giddey, if we look at some of his recent minutes, also, just all over the place. We talked about this the other day as well. A little more consistent, actually. Last 4 games, he's played 38, 32, 32, 34 minutes. Just in time for me to jump back on board and get totally cuffed by Mark Dagnall, the coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, because the last time I went heavy on Giddey, he played less than 20 minutes in that game against the Sacramento Kings. He was under-owned. We had the late scratch scenario with SGA in that spot, if I remember correctly. And then he played less than 20 minutes, if I am recalling the scenario correctly.
They're probably my least favorite team to have on a slate. We just get some news.
Don't love them at all. And we are now at lock. So if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and don't go anywhere either, because we've got some starting lineups that are going to be coming out in the coming times here. We're waiting on the OKC lineup. That's going to be a biggie for tonight. The other lineup we're waiting on, which is also going to be really important, is the Dallas Mavericks starters. The reason that matters is because Who's starting at center? What happens with Christian Wood? Do they start him? Does he play alongside Dwight Powell? Does he come off the bench? It's going to impact our ownerships quite a bit. So stick around for the next 30 minutes, where Neil and I are also going to be talking about some prize picks, who are the sponsors of today's show. We'll build out some parlays there using the data and tools on the site. But right now, we've also got a super chat from my Filler Arc. Bam and Scotty Barnes, or Jonas Valanciunas and Evan Mobley? I'm not really playing a lot of any of those guys other than Valanciunas. So Valanciunas is going to be the side I go with. Valanciunas and Mobley.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same for me. So I only have 14% Valanciunas, but he's coming in at 5% ownership. I like him quite a bit in large field GPP. So I think it would have to be the Valanciunas Mobley side of it.
Yeah, and then also just looking through my line, like Scotty Barnes is not somebody I'm getting exposure to really. Same goes with Bam Adebayo. Like, are those guys that are popping up meaningfully for you at all?
No, I think I have 5% Bam. What do I have of Scotty? Let me see.
I don't have any lineups with Scotty Barnes.
I might not either. I have 0. Yeah. The field's only a 3. He's kind of interesting at 3% ownership. I actually think he's an interesting play, but I don't have any currently.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Valanciunas side because he's a player who I actually have exposure to of those combinations. So that is where we're going to be going. A lot of people in chat are saying stuff about the Mavericks starting lineup. Oh, because it just came out. Tim Hardaway Jr. is likely to start in place of Reggie Bullock. So I think that makes Tim Hardaway Jr. a pretty strong option for today. Now we still need to know the starting center, right? Bullock is out. Tim Hardaway's in his place, but still not totally sure what's going to happen with some of the front court for Dallas. Now, with that said, with Hardaway starting, I feel pretty good in saying that means Christian Wood is coming off the bench.
Oh, you think so? I wasn't sure if that would affect the center.
Yeah, because if you look at just the recent games for Dallas, they've been starting Dwight Powell at center. So I assume Dwight Powell still starts at center. What I thought could happen, though, is we could just see them go big with Christian Wood and Dwight Powell playing alongside each other.
Right.
But with Tim Hardaway Jr. starting, I think I feel pretty comfortable saying the starting 5 is going to be Luka, Kyrie Irving, Tim Hardaway Jr., because we just found out that he is starting, and then Josh Green and Dwight Powell. I think that's our 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then what do we do with Christian Wood? Like, he's not a slam dunk play. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the 48% I currently have of Christian Wood. I think I'm going to cut back a little bit. Like, still has the minutes upside, but they don't have to play him.
I have him in 25% of my lineups right now, and that was under the assumption that I thought he was going to be coming off the bench. He's still coming off the bench. If he was starting, I would have played a ton of him.
Yeah.
But I'm good. The 25% I have right now, I feel good with.
That sounds more reasonable than 48%.
And there's a lot of centers to get to as well. I mentioned I like Jalen Williams. I'm paying up for Jokic a little bit. I like Valanciunas in the mid-range. I am getting to a little bit of Dwight Powell, Dario Saric being another one. So, with center being that one position where you don't get as many options in the other position, you don't get one of the guard or forward spots to play them in. It's hard to get exposure to a lot of the guys I like and be crazy heavy on any one guy. So 25% Christian Wood is where I landed and where I'm going to be keeping it.
I think that seems like a perfectly reasonable spot. Probably close to what I'm trying to get to.
Starting lineup is out for the Pelicans. They've got CJ McCollum, Herbert Jones, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, Jonas Valanciunas. No surprises there. And the starting lineup for the Celtics is Smart, White, Brown, Tatum, and Orford. But now Tim Hardaway Jr., is he somebody that you were playing much of before? And are you going to get to more, less, or the same of him now?
Yeah, so I had him in around 50% of my lineups. If anything, I will go up. And as I'm probably cutting back a little bit on my Christian Wood lineups, I'll probably get a little bit more Tim Hardaway Jr. I would think. We'll see do you think we had him projected? So we already had a pretty solid projection on Tim Hardaway Jr. We had him projected for 32.5 minutes and 25 fantasy points already. I would have thought that was assuming he's starting already. Do you think it'll update now?
No, I think it'll probably stay the same. He's also kind of an interesting situation as I think about him more from a standpoint of like, all right, if he starts, he plays a couple extra minutes, but those minutes are going to be played alongside Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Kind of hard to get your shots in that scenario.
Right.
If he comes off the bench, sure, he'd be playing less, but a little bit more usage in that scenario. So, I mean, the more I think through it, he's a good value play. He probably wouldn't have been massively impacted if he started or came off the bench.
Yeah. I guess that's yeah. I currently have 48%. I'll think about whether I need to change. We'll see if any. How many more? We're not waiting on that many more starting lineups before the next lock, but
yeah. Well, OKC is going to be the big one, but
that won't come out till later, probably.
That won't come out until later. Yeah, that's not until a 9:00 start game. The Dallas one was important. We just got the Blazers starting lineup. It is Dame, it is Thibault, it is Reddish, Jeremy Grant, and Yusuf Nurkic. So we got those starting 5. I wasn't sure if Nurk was going to start or not coming back. He is starting. I still don't think that means he plays a massive amount of minutes, though. He's dealt with all kinds of injury issues in the second half of the year. So I am not going to be playing Nurkic, even though he's starting. I still think we see some sort of minutes restriction on him.
It's tough because he's such a good fantasy producer that it's like, so we've got him projected for 24 minutes, 31 fantasy points. Like at 6,500, that's not enough, but like he could obviously spike an upside. He could play 26, 27 minutes, still fairly limited in spike and upside. I don't think I'm actually, I guess I have him in one lineup at this point. I think I'm comfortable with that. The field's only getting there 2%. I think I don't want to take any kind of huge stand. So I'm probably comfortable with that.
Another thing too is another reason I think Portland's going to be really conservative with him. In the month leading up to him missing all this time, he missed 3 games. He had to leave 3 games early with a calf injury before they finally just shut him down for an extended period of time. You have to leave games early 3 times due to a calf injury. He also missed a game over that stretch. Then finally has the calf injury and they don't play him for a month. It just seems unlikely to me that you go out and have a guy who had all of these injuries and then you gave him a month off that he comes back and just like, all right, Nurk, you're going out there and playing, even 26 minutes. It seems unlikely to me. Yeah,
no, I think I agree. It's definitely unlikely. It's just so hard because we know that he has such potential if he does get the minutes, but I'm with you. It's very unlikely that he just gets enough minutes to really go off.
And by the way, I thought this is funny for my guy, Eric Johnson, who is he's removed himself from Discord. He's told me on Twitter, but he's still in the YouTube chat. And he says that if he loses to Chalk OKC, he is quitting NBA DFS until next season.
I believe him. 100% believe him.
I don't. I think he'll be right back in chat tomorrow and be like, hey guys, I'm drunk. How much Sam Hauser should I play? That's going to be the next message I see from him.
I think that's the more likely scenario. I was trying to be nice when I said I believe him.
Let's look at
we got the Mavs lineup. It's Luka, Kyrie, Hardaway, Green, Powell, as you expected.
There we go. Convenient because I don't really have to change anything for that.
That is nice.
But let's pull up Prize Picks now, Mike, and I want to go through some of the different still remaining props that are up on the site. We got that super chat before. Somebody asked us for a couple of our favorite Prize Picks plays, but let's build out a parlay card. We could put out even more of them now. Prize Picks, going back to our projections. Also, guys, don't forget, you're signing up at Prize Picks. Use the promo code GregOS. GregOS. Up to $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. And what's more funny thing to say? GregOS or Gregos?
I was literally just going to say, I'd go with Gregos. It just sounds cooler. It makes you sound like you're like European, kind of scary. Gregos.
Filter. Promo code. Gregos.
So that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
The sunglasses.
I'm like you from yesterday. All right.
So you're like me. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. When you got your own promo code, you got to wear shades on the show. Rules of the game. That's how it works. Let's see what looks good here. Do you have our projections pulled up, Neil? I'm pulling them up right now. Do you remember the 2 that we gave out before?
Yes, we went with Josh Okogie and Brandon Ingram over 5 rebounds. So Okogie over 4 rebounds, Ingram over 5 rebounds.
So let's start by putting those in, Mike. And I can't miss. I'm wearing sunglasses now.
Yeah.
So first do Okogie over 5 rebounds. Oh, sorry, over 4 rebounds. We had him projected for 5. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
More.
And then Brandon Ingram over 5.
By the way, last night, because this is obviously what determines everything, Eric and I built out a parlay and it won last night, which means for sure we're going to win again.
Yeah. If Eric can win, then I can win. Come on.
Although a big crux of it, though, not to pat myself on the back, was that when we saw the starting lineup for the Warriors, I'd said there's no way Kevon Looney's playing full minutes. I thought this was a spot where we're going to get rest minutes from, and all his unders. Look, he ended up playing like 11 minutes. So
nice. Nailed it.
So we had that. I can't give Eric any credit for that. That was all me. What else looks good? All right. So we've got Josh Okogie, got Brandon Ingram. We are going to avoid the first game on the slate because it's already locked. So no Kyle Kuzma to talk about here.
Good call. I was going to talk about John Collins, but I can't.
That's a very big rebound prop for DeAndre Ayton. I did bet the over on his points earlier in the day. But 11.5 rebounds for DeAndre Ayton, especially with some of the blowout concerns.
Yeah.
Leave that off for now, though.
What do we have his minutes at?
Here's one I like.
Okay.
DeMar DeRozan under 5 assists. That's a pretty big number for DeRozan. How often does he go to 6? Right? Because he'd have to get to 6 for us to lose this. He has had one game with 6 assists since February 4th. Oh, no, sorry. I was looking at his rebounds. He's actually had a handful here. Nah, I'll leave that one off. No DeRozan assists. I was looking at his rebounds when I was looking at his numbers there. We've got the Jokic assist number for the other day, but we don't have the 10.5 we had the other day. It's back to 10. 10.5 was a nice one. 10 I'll avoid.
What about Jokic over 21.5 points? We've got a projected for 24.4.
Interesting. I'm also curious, what are his... Mike, can you check his fantasy points over on Prize Picks? Just go to the fantasy points for Jokic. I like the points, though, but I also wonder if the fantasy points might look even better. Give me the over on that. 53.5 fantasy points for Nikola Jokic.
I like it.
We have him projected...
Like 57. Yeah, we got him at 57.
Yeah, give me the over on Jokic fantasy points. I think that's when I feel best. I think the points looks good as well, but the fantasy points the best there.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
DFS Chief said he thought those shades were photoshopped. No, sir. These are the real deal. These are absolutely real sunglasses.
Definitely real. You can see because he turns his head and they stay on him.
Yeah, that's how you could tell for sure. Neil's hat is photoshopped. Neil doesn't even really like the XFL.
No.
The hat's photoshopped on him. But my sunglasses are real. Neil's hat is not.
Also, the beard is photoshopped on.
Yeah, people don't know that. What people also don't know is that, so it's sort of photoshopped because Neil has a beard, but it's blonde. And right. It's a little bit different. So it's part of Neil's rider where he demands that we Photoshop him into a pepper colored beard because it looks really good on him. And he's just jealous that naturally he only has blonde hair.
Yeah. Blonde, kind of patchy.
Yeah. I like this look for you though.
Thank you.
It's good. I don't like the lack of the lack of the flannel, but everything else I like.
I'll fix that tomorrow or the next time I'm on, which I guess is Friday.
Did we have any, how many props did we put in that parlay there? I want to just read. Oh, we're only at 3. All right. Pull that back up. The other one. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, is John Collins screwing me? People are talking about him a lot.
Uh-oh. He's giving you the pipe. Let's see. What is 14-5. What a quick start to that game. No, John Collins is 6 points and 2 rebounds in 2 minutes.
Did I not tell you to play John Collins?
You know who is really crushing right now? Trae Young, 6 points, a rebound, an assist, and a steal for Trae Young in 2 minutes. What a slow start for the Wizards here. The Wizards have 5. They're down 14-5. How do you have 14 points in 2 minutes?
It's impressive. I think part of it, what you do is you get 6 out of Trae Young, you get 6 out of John Collins, and then you got 2 out of Dejounte Murray. That's how you do it.
Yeah, that is a early beatdown. Is the game over? Do they even play the rest of it?
Devin Neiman says 100% Colin looking good. Colin's looking good right now. Maybe not so good later. That is very true. Like he's done very well for the 3 minutes they've played, but we've got him projected for like 20 minutes. Like who knows? Even if he's doing well, he might not get any extra runs. So we'll see.
Who's off the top of your head? Who's the champion of DFS of getting off to hot starts that don't amount to anything?
Probably Kristaps.
Porzingis has some good games though.
Or no, Embiid would. I guess I'm naming players who can put up huge fantasy scores, but I feel Embiid like regularly puts up 30 in the first quarter, and then like he'll end up with 55.
Tobias Harris does that a lot. I feel like he's never DFS relevant in the larger sense. There's very few slates where he ends up mattering. But there are a lot of slates where it seems like he's going to matter early, where it's like, oh my God, Tobias Harris is 4,900 and he scored 21 fantasy points in the first quarter and he finishes with 24 somehow. Right. That's a Tobias Harris special. In the larger sense, if we're talking about the entire season, remember week 1, Sammy Watkins?
Oh, yeah.
He'd go out, he would be hyped in the offseason, Sammy Watkins, have a big week 1, 6 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. That would equal what he does the rest of the season combined.
Yep. Oh, I'm familiar. There's also, oh man, I can't remember who it was. There was I want to say a Tigers first baseman who like the first day of the season hit 3 home runs and like, is this guy for real? And then he like had a great first week, like kept on raking. I don't know if it was the Tigers, but then did nothing the rest of the season. It's funny when people get off to those hot starts.
Yeah, some other people are mentioning, I'm going to put this up on Twitter in a little bit too. Stay Odd saying Jaylen Brown is the first quarter king. Here's another one. Wayne's World brought up Tobias Harris. Yeah, he's done a bunch. Jordan Clarkson's at some this year. Bradley Beal. A couple people have said Gary Trent. Yet Trent, because you know what it is? It's a lot of people who are scoring dependent. Because it's guys who they just make their shots early and then there aren't peripheral stats. Like Gary Trent's not putting up rebounds, assists, or anything. It's just did he make his threes or not? Tobias Harris is very much the same way as well. And yes, I'm leaving the sunglasses on for the remainder of the show.
Of course. Once you got them, you see how cool you look. You don't want to take them off. Just like me the other day. I was like, I'm going to wear these as a bit for like 3 minutes and I'll take them off, put my regular glasses on. I'll be able to see again. And then I was just like, I feel cool. So I kept them on.
Yeah, the other thing too is my future is so bright that I often get blinded by it. And so it does help to have these sunglasses on just to kind of, temper everything. People bring
Chris Shelton. People are saying, yeah, it's not Dimitri Young. I know Dimitri Young, but yeah, it was Chris Shelton who got off to the really hot start and then fell off.
How long ago was that?
I don't even know, but it was when it since I started playing DFS. Like I know it was a DFS relevant, I think at least.
All right, Dimitri Young Fangraphs. You said Dimitri Young.
No, Chris Shelton.
Oh, Chris Shelton.
Yeah.
From the Diamondbacks, right?
Oh, maybe.
I thought he was on the Diamondbacks. All right.
930 career at bats.
Oh no, you're right. It was the Tigers. So Chris Shelton, he was actually not terrible. He had a 111 WRC plus for his career, so 11% above league average. Wasn't terrible. Is he still? And he stopped playing when he was 29.
Yeah, 2009, his last year.
Interesting. There we go. Neil shout out there is that
good Chris memory chat.
Shelton did it in 2006, but Bosch did the exact same thing a few years later. Collins up to 11.5 fantasy points. And Eric Johnson bringing up MLB does come back in 3 weeks. It does. Neil's been doing a lot of our content this year, by the way.
I am for MLB.
Am I breaking news to you?
You are breaking. I mean, I did a lot of it last year too, so it's not like really breaking news, but I haven't talked about it with anybody.
All right. Not what I had heard, but hey, this time Neil finds out he's going to be doing more baseball content this year. Trae Young is up to 8 points, a rebound, an assist, and a steal. John Collins now 6 points, 2 rebounds, and a block. And then Kristaps Porzingis has 7 points, no other stats for the Wizards on the other side of the game. What the ownership looked like in this game.
Adam EJ, you must miss Eric because he's asking me who's going to win the players. Like that is not a Neil question at all. Is John Rahm in it? If John Rahm's in it, I'll go with John Rahm. Otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. We'll need Eric will be here tomorrow. You can ask him.
Based it'll be too late. Based on some of the stories we heard earlier, when I say who's going to win of all the players, that's got to be pipe player Mike Lawrence. The number one player.
He's the number one player with an A though at the end, not ER.
If you guys do really want to know who's going to win the Players Championship, you know where you should probably get your information from. PGA Live Before Lock, which is after this. Probably better ask those guys than a couple of idiots like us. Neil is wearing an XFL hat. I'm wearing fake sunglasses. And you want to know about fancy golf stuff from us?
Golf guys, come on.
Yeah, a couple of dorks like us. We didn't know shit about golf.
Eric is a former golf caddy, if you didn't know. Is that actually true? I saw that in like reads that we were doing at one point. I was like, I did not know that about Eric.
He cleaned a couple of guys' golf clubs with his tongue once, and he's like, "Am I a professional now?" There's a little more to it than that. He sent in videos like, "Look how much."
And then he learned out it wasn't actually a golf club. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "Look, it goes. You could fit it in all of your." Like, all right, Eric, I don't care where you could fit a golf club in your body. It doesn't make you a professional golfer. Good time.
Eric's not even here defending himself tonight. This is new.
Yeah, no, he's got his tears here though.
By the way, I do remember the conversation now about baseball content. I am aware of the baseball content. Yes, I am doing a lot. I'm planning to do a lot of, but we left it at like maybe we could do this, and we'll talk about it more later. So, I guess I was not aware that it was finalized, but yeah, I was aware that I'm going to be doing a good amount this year.
And Neil is going to be doing baseball content as now has been confirmed live on the air. Merrill Peak, Josh Green, or Wood. Of those two, I prefer Christian Wood.
Yes, agreed. Just a better fantasy producer.
By the way, I'm gonna have to wash my water bottle tonight, and I think the paper is gonna come off. So the bid is gonna die tomorrow, I believe. It's had a good run though. It's had a good 2 days.
Can always find a new sticker.
What?
I mean, probably. If you need, I can send you a label.
I had to make this myself. I had to buy a piece of paper. I had to draw on it, write a couple of words, and then I had to cut it and tape it to this. It was a lot of work. I don't know if I could go.
Sounds like a lot of work. Probably not worth it.
Like I was considering making an ongoing bit where every day I had something different written on the water bottle, and people would be like, oh, as if people would give a shit what it is that I'm drinking. But the issue I said before I ran into is that it's hard to see what it says on unless I put it directly in focus on the camera, and just seemed like a lot of work.
It's not worth it.
No. I mean, for the water bottle though, like if I have the water bottle here, see how? No, but it's still kind of hard to see the text sometimes. Really?
Trae Young is going off, by the way. 21.25 fantasy points, not even 8 minutes into the game.
Ooh.
That'll do.
Let's see. What is he? Yeah. 3 steals in 7 minutes. For some reason, when there are a lot of guards that have outlier games, they also just go nuts with the defensive stats sometimes. That's Trae Young. If somebody has a lot of good steal variants early in the game, it's going to be their night.
Yeah.
A couple more super chats coming in. Douglas Bowman, best 4,200 utility for DK tournament. So we can't use the first game. So it's not Atlanta and Washington players, and 4,200 or below.
Maybe Tybal. Back to Tybal.
Yeah. If Matisse Thybulle, if you want somebody who's lower owned, Jalen Williams for me, but Thybulle I think is also acceptable there. We're at 14. Number 1 baseball pick this year, Neil and Greg. For what purpose?
That's a good question.
Do you do any best ball for baseball?
I did do 2 drafts just to kind of see what it looks like. I was thinking about like, do I want to get into baseball? And then it was just kind of, for me, because I did not get into it enough, it was boring. Like it was just like, I'm just picking based on ADP, which is like obviously not the way you want to do it. So I've done a little bit. I made 3 lineups, but I am not confident in my MLB process. I would probably go. So I'm looking at one draft, and Aaron Judge went number 1 overall. So I'll go with Aaron Judge, I guess.
I played yearly baseball when I was younger. The reason I stopped is because I was in a dynasty league and built the nuts, and I punted the first couple of years of the league as well. I was just accumulating prospects, young players. So at the time, the guys who were the good young prospects, I had Mike Trout.
Ooh.
I had who were some of the other? I had Chris Sale. I had Buster Posey. I had Freddie Freeman. And so the first 2 years, my team is terrible. It's one of the worst teams in the league. I'm accumulating draft picks. I'm accumulating young guys. Jose Altuve was another player I had on my team at the time. I'm finally ready to compete. We're going into year 3. And everybody goes, we don't really want to do this league anymore. And then I lost all motivation to play fantasy baseball because I'd spent 2 years and it was an engaged league. It was trades. There was an off season and stuff. And the league fell apart. I was like, fuck this. I don't want to play. It just totally soured me on yearly baseball leagues.
Yeah, that's bullshit because you're building for the future and then that future comes. Yeah, I'd be a little bit bitter towards it as well. I've been in, I was in a TUXC, so Tufts cross country. We had a league that we did like from when I was in college. I finally dropped out like a few years ago because I had stopped paying attention and I was like, this will be better for everybody. I'm dropping out. They re-invited me to the league this year. Like, hey, I know you dropped out. I was like, I'm not going back to that league. I'm in an NL only league with some of the same guys, which again, like I feel like I built up the nuts, but then I sort of, as I got more into DFS, just stopped really paying attention. And I don't know, it's a lot to track when you're playing DFS full time also.
Bean Dude says that EMAC once drafted Dave Kingman when he was an unknown rookie. Little known about EMAC, he was behind the Black Sox scandal as well. EMAC has his roots in a lot of pieces of history. EMAC is actually the DFS version of Forrest Gump. He's been everywhere. He's seen everything. He was a part of every single significant piece of different betting and DFS events that have happened over the course of the world. He was at the Black Sox scandal. He played a big role in it. He was the bookie who took Pete Rose's bets. People don't know that about EMAC. EMAC is going to be our president in 2024.
Pete Rose, who has been in our chat frequently recently, by the way.
Yeah, he has. And then right there, Eric Johnson said that EMAC is related to Babe Ruth. It's true. They were also lovers for a short period of time. He's got a lot of, it was the incestuous nature of it was very controversial at the time. But either way, EMAC's been everywhere. And that's also when Babe Ruth, remember when he was calling the home run shot?
Of course, I remember that.
His lover at the time was EMAC, and he was just pointing to EMAC in center field. And then all these years, people thought that he was calling his shot. He wasn't. He was just pointing at his lover, EMAC, who's sitting in center field.
Who caught the ball, by the way? He actually hit it right to EMAC as planned.
That's true. The whole thing is crazy. The entire thing is crazy. And that's why EMAC's going to be president in 2024. You want a man who has life experiences like that. You're 100%. Not going to find that anywhere else. EMAC 2024.
Guy for the job.
EMAC, and then here, Bean Dude says, EMAC played Uno with Amarillo, Slim, and Doyle Brunson in the 1950s. EMAC has a very, very long and storied history in the betting and gambling space, and you guys should be voting for him for president in 2024. Let's double check and make sure that there were no Discord. Oh, here we go. Big Dream wants to know, do you like the assist prop for Hardaway on Prize Picks? Let's see, what's the number? Number on Tim Hardaway on Prize Picks.
Yeah, we've got the over on 1.5 winning 57% of the time. He's starting now. Yeah, I like him. I like it.
It's a very low number. I like it. Over 1.5. Not going to say it's our favorite play in the world, but you could include that in there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Timmy, over 1.5 assists. Gives us a 4-leg parlay. By the way, if you haven't signed up over at Prize Picks, use the promo code GregOS. Going to give you up to $100 bonus on your first deposit, and then also 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. So make sure to take advantage of that. And then let me just make sure that there were no more questions here. Oh, let's close with this. Our very half-assed answer from Olrat14. Let's give him an official answer, and then we'll close out the show. By the way, don't take this as gospel. I have no clue who should be the number 1 pick in baseball drafts this year. My gut feeling is that Aaron Judge is the guy. Is that going to be your official answer as well, Neil?
Yeah, I'd go Aaron Judge. And by the way, I prefer Greg OS. Greg OS does not do it for me.
Yeah, it's spelled the exact same way, Gregos, but you guys can pronounce it however you want. Gregos, Greg OS. Either way, it's going to get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit and 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. That's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you very much for sticking along with us. We hit on a lot today. We got to basketball. We talked about EMAC's history, his future presidential candidacy. Thank you guys very much. If you didn't do it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck. See you back here tomorrow.